The NFL draft is in Green Bay for the first time in 86 years. It was the same year that television was invented. Who are the 49ers going to pick? What crazy thing could happen in the top five? We are going to be here for all 3 hours, breaking it down for you on the Gold Standard Podcast. What is good, everybody? Welcome to the Gold Standard 49ers live draft show. We are going to be here for the next 3 hours breaking down everything that happens. I'm Rob Guerrera alongside Levin Black. Levin, this is going to be the longest show I've ever done, and I have been waiting weeks for it.
It's going to be the longest show I've ever done. I got to talk to you for 3 hours. What did I sign myself up for?
I don't know, but you did, and now there's no escape. So we are going to be here. I cannot wait. There could be a lot of craziness. We're hearing that Jacksonville is planning some mysterious move that could shake up the entire first round. It is going to be so much fun. We are going to break it all down for you, Levin. But before we get to anything, we got to give a huge thank you to Nick Ellert, YouTube channel member with a massive super chat, who says, Rob, thank you for bringing GSN to my life. For me, GSN is a 49ers bar that I pull up a seat to. You are the bartender and the host and the regulars who talk ball. And when it's done, you know they love the 49ers the same. First beer is on me. Thank you. Thank you, Nick. Your support and everybody in the chat. I see you, all the YouTube channel members. Thank you. Lets me do this for a living, and I could not be more grateful to everybody and you, Levin, and everybody on the team that's going to pop in tonight. We so appreciate it.
It's one of the few interactions I actually miss from Twitter. Nick used to tag us in a lot of things and get us commenting and arguing and poking fun at each other. Yeah, that's about the only thing I miss from Twitter.
Well, thank you, Nick. We appreciate it. That's just a tremendous way to start up the show, and I appreciate it. Sourdough Sam says, Super Chat's paid for Rob's big-ass TV. They sure as hell didn't hurt. I'll just say that. Let's break it down, Levin. Let's start to look at what could happen, because a lot of people think that Jacksonville could be sort of the pivot point for what could happen in the first round.
Pivot? I got you. You can't say that word without me saying that.
This is a 49ers draft show, so we're going to look at everything through a 49ers lens, but we are going to talk about all of the picks, okay? And part of what happens with the 49ers is going to depend on what happens ahead of the 49ers as we begin the obvious night of saying things. Look at the first round picks as it stands right now. If Jacksonville does something crazy and trades up, possibly with the Browns, maybe, could that have something cooking? Maybe do they go Travis Hunter? And then what does Cleveland do at 5? What do you think a Jags move up does?
I don't think it changes a whole lot, honestly, in terms of like how it shakes, because I think that second pick is going to be Travis Hunter one way or another. And if it's not the second pick, it's definitely going to be the fourth pick. So I don't think it changes a whole lot. I think the top four, there's not going to be a whole lot of change in the top four, whether somebody trades up or not. But what that will do is the team that's trading down, you don't know what they're going to do at 5. And you don't know what they're going to do with the extra first round pick that they get or what they get. You know, they could end up moving back into the first round, which if the 49ers trade down, say into the 20s, that could affect them. Let's say if the Browns now have the ammo to draft at 5, but also jump the 49ers if they were to trade down. That is the ramifications I think it would have.
I'm interested. You know, the Jags are led by Gladstone. His first name is escaping me, but John Gladstone, I think. He comes from the Rams. And what do we know about the Rams and their philosophy, right? We'll make any deal. We'll do anything crazy, right? Like nothing is too big. Nothing is outside the scope of their thinking. So I'm very interested to see what the Jags do. To me, 4 and 5 is where things could get really interesting. What everyone just assumes Will Campbell's going to the Patriots, and maybe he will, but what if he doesn't? And then all of a sudden that shakes up the rest of it, because now you got a tackle that's on the board that nobody thought was going to be on the board. So that is where I think this thing could get a little bit interesting. Let's welcome in Steph Sanchez. Steph is the draft visits queen. She literally had Matt Barrows on her channel last night saying that he checks her work before he puts out his 49ers visits list. Steph, thanks for coming aboard.
Yo, happy to be on. I mean, this is really exciting. Second year in a row, right, that we've done this. So
Yes.
good vibes. Really excited for today's draft. I mean, the 49ers are picking pretty early. So, the top 10 should be action-packed based on what we're hearing so far. And so it should be a pretty fun night.
Shout out to Gabe Garoni, YouTube channel member for 20 months. Thank you, Gabe. Says the mixed emotions of being excited for the draft. Nick Ellert says Mason Graham Hive. I feel like there's some people that are excited, Levin, and then there's some people that are just hoping the 49ers don't step on a landmine. Which one are you?
I think you know which one I am.
Yeah, a wet blanket. I know.
I wouldn't even say that I'm full on in either side of that. I will get excited once the draft pick is made, but being 11th, you get outside that top 5, I'm not going to get too excited about one prospect in particular. I'm not going to join a hive because that just means chances are you're going to end up disappointed because the chances of getting that one player are pretty slim. Granted, the last time I probably did that was when I joined the Michael Crabtree hive and the Nate Davis hive in that same draft, and I got both. But I learned my lesson on that because it was my last year of college, and I promised that if they got Michael Crabtree and Nate Davis, that I would go streaking, and then they ended up doing it. So I don't join hives and make bets and promises like that anymore.
I don't know, Steph, are you seeing this on Twitter? The Green Bay Packers just tweeted the draft entry is temporarily paused because the event venue has reached maximum capacity. General admission entry has been paused at this time. I don't know if you saw, it looks like there's about 250,000 people there, and I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah, I'm watching here live. I mean, it looks packed. And Green Bay, shout out to all the fans out there because they are true football fans. I mean, we know what they go through. Yeah, look at that. That's insane. That looks like headlining act at music festival, Coachella or something. But that's awesome. I mean, Green Bay fans are among some of the best in the league. And if they can weather those games where it's freezing cold, I think this is light work for them. So they don't mind standing. They said it's cold there right now. I don't know what the temperature is, but it is nothing for them.
And the draft is officially open right now. The Tennessee Titans are on the clock. 10 minutes for each pick. If you don't know, teams generally know who they're taking, but they like to wait the 10 minutes because they want all the networks to talk about them. So don't expect the Cam Ward pick to come in just yet. Forking Crazy, YouTube channel member, says 1 a.m. here in Ireland, bleary-eyed and drunk. What could go wrong? Glad to have your company, lads, and maybe Lassies if Michelle and Steph show up. Well, there you go. Steph showed up. Not only did Steph show up, correct me if I'm wrong, Steph showed up with a fresh cut.
I did. I mean, I had to get a fresh cut for, the draft. You see that? And then I don't know if you saw this, Rob, but Nick Bosa apparently got a haircut.
Yeah, he looks just like
my hair. What? Who does he think he is? Me?
Yeah, I think he just wants to make your life easier. He did you a favor, Steph.
That's actually hilarious. So yeah, it will be a little easier because he was growing it out for a hot minute there, and I was like, I don't know if I can. I'm not gonna grow my hair out again. So
hey, he should have gone for the mullet because that would have forced you to go into territory you're probably not willing to go to.
I would not. I couldn't do it. I couldn't rock a mullet.
It could have been the Jared Allen 2.0.
Oh, jeez. Chad says, I'm shocked that Rob was able to get Nick Bosa on the show. Yeah, look, we increased the budget here at the Gold Standard. So thanks for stopping by, Nick.
Maybe I'll even announce the pick as Nick.
Yes, there we go. I absolutely love it. All right, well, let's look at this because we haven't put it on the screen yet. These are the 49ers picks in the 2025 draft. 11 picks in all. Right now, they're only scheduled to make one pick tonight. Of course, we know pick number 11. If you had to bet an amount of money that mattered to you, Levin, do the 49ers make one pick tonight, no picks tonight, or somewhere in between?
I would say that they will end up not picking as many that are of draft picks that they have. They will make some trades and they will consolidate some. I don't see them adding all these players. I can't see that. It looks like your little graphic there has some typos, though.
Oh, no. Where?
There's some 100s missing. You got Round 4, pick 13, pick 38. It's
down.
113, 138, 147. But
Terrible job in a big spot.
It's been a long week. So
numbers aren't your game. You should have left it to me.
That's what I get for making the graphic a half hour before the draft starts.
But no, I think that they won't add that many. I cannot see them having. I would say maybe 10, as few as 9, but I don't see them drafting all those picks.
I hope that they do. I don't want them to move up. To me, you don't need to move up, Steph. If you want Mykel Williams and he's gone, you take Walter Nolan. If you want Walter Nolan and he's gone, you take, I don't know, Derek Harmon. Like, you don't really need to move up. You're still going to be able to get a really good player and address a position of need.
I agree, unless it's, one player that they feel convicted on.
Oh,
press the button, Rob.
Oh, do I have it here?
Convicted.
Yes.
Convicted.
So, if there's a player that they would pound the table for, I could see that. A gold helmet guy, they get their guys. I mean, and so even if they have to reach for that player, even if they have to move up for that player, they will do it. Here's one thing that's intriguing to me. Did you guys see the James Pierce kind of talk happening like earlier today? That
Yes.
I think Grant said that he could see that being the pick. And I don't know if he means at 11, because that would be very early. And you would have to have no questions over his character, which have been massive questions to this point in the pre-draft process. So I don't know about that one, but what would intrigue me is if the 49ers, at 11, maybe went defensive tackle, there's going to be a nice crop of edge rushers that are going to be available like in the early second round. They pick at 43, which I think is just far enough that they'll miss out on those top guys at the top of the second. I'm almost wondering if James Pierce is there towards the back end of the first round, if they would come up to get him, or if day one finishes and he's still there, if they'd move up to get him at the top of the second. Because I think that would be a bit of a slam dunk, 2 picks back to back. That would be awesome. And I'm thinking if they go defensive tackle, either Mason Graham or Nolan at 11, and they can, get that second guy as your edge. And if that's James Pierce, his skill set, I think, fits exactly what the 49ers would look for and have missed out on, since D Ford. He has the speed, he's explosive. So he'd be a very, very good compliment to Nick Bosa, I think. So I don't know. That one's intriguing me a bit.
James Pierce cropped up. I felt like today, all of a sudden today, it was like James Pierce. People are tweeting out the pick is going to be James Pierce. There were 2 major draft guides that I read really thoroughly this year. One is the Dane Brugler guide, which is, you'll see a lot of Dane Brugler stuff on the show tonight. I have the big board up on the screen right now. They were relatively positive on James Pierce. A lot of good strengths, a lot of, good details in there, good nuggets about him. Fairly confident in him as a player. The other draft guide that I checked out was the Dieter and Hutch draft guide, and they eviscerated Pierce in the guide. They said he has no bag whatsoever, has a speed rush, and that's it. Doesn't really know what to do when he gets to the quarterback. They crushed him, and I'm always fascinated by that. All the film is the same, right? We all watch the same film. How could 2 people that I respect, or 3 people in this case that I respect, have such glaringly different views on the same guy when we're all watching the same film, Steph?
Well, it's even the same thing with Mason Graham, right? I'm not as high on Mason Graham as some other people are. I would have Nolan a little bit higher. And then on the other end, you have people who don't like Nolan and his tape all that much. And I'm just yeah, are we watching the same thing? Are we watching the same games? So yeah, it's interesting. I agree. I mean, the biggest part of James Pierce's game is his speed. But that worked for them when they had it. That's what I'm saying. That's kind of all he needs to do, especially with wide 9. That would be to his advantage, right? Because you're catching these tackles at a favorable angle. Plus, you have the speed to get past them, so they're not going to be able to get their hands on you. So, I think he'd be a good fit, even with the concerns that maybe his pass rush arsenal isn't that deep. Not every player needs a deep pass rush arsenal. Some guys have one or two moves that just work so well they can beat guys consistently. You're
muted, Rob. But I will say on that, I was thinking about that exact thing this morning. It's like, do I prefer somebody as a defensive lineman that's good at everything but not great at anything? Or do I want the guy that has this one great thing that they do that might be average or slightly below average at other aspects? To me, I would rather have the guy that has the elite level talent at one particular, whether it's stopping the run game, pass rushing, whatever it is. That's what I want to see, because if they struggle against the run or they struggle against the pass, you can rotate and mitigate that weakness. But having somebody that's dominant, even if it's one pass rush move, like how many pass rush moves did D Ford have? If he hadn't gotten hurt, he would have been dominant. But he only had one move. It was, I'm going to run at you and then get into your chest.
I hate to cut you off, but the Jaguars have traded into the number 2 overall spot. Cam Ward was officially taken by the Tennessee Titans at number 1. Congratulations, Cam Ward. So now the Browns are trading number 2 overall, a 4th round pick, and a 6th round pick to the Jags. Jacksonville's trading number 5 overall, a 2nd round pick, a 4th round pick, and their 2026 1st round pick to the Cleveland Browns. The Jacksonville Jaguars are officially on the clock. Well, I mean, obviously, we don't think they're going to take a quarterback. Are they going to go Ashton Jeanty at number 2, Steph?
No, this has to be for Travis Hunter. They could have stood pat and gotten Jeanty, I think. So this has to be for Hunter.
That is a interesting trade that I think I'm not a big fan on trading up at all in the first round. I think it costs so much that it's not worth it. But the Jags are one of those teams that I think if they get the right guy and Trevor Lawrence stays healthy, I'm not thinking they're going to be great or anything, but that first round pick next year could easily be in like the middle 20s and not all that valuable.
I'll say this, to get a first round pick next year to only move down 3 spots,
that's crazy.
The Browns did good work here, man. That is, you got
but that's the normal compensation. That's why if I'm picking at the top of the draft, I'm trading down every time.
I mean, but this is 3 spots. I don't know. To me, it's a lot to give up. Good for the Browns.
Well, we'll see. It's the Browns.
The Browns. Yeah.
Obviously, it does depend on, who they actually take with these picks. By the way, just since I missed it when Cam Ward was drafted, and for the first time tonight.
Yes. Go.
Yes.
That reminds me.
That sound.
One thing we need to get clear is what channel is each of us watching?
So I have the draft on my phone, because if I streamed it in my browser, I felt like StreamYard would have a heart attack. So I'm watching on ESPN on my phone. I got Mel Kiper's beautiful hair on my phone right now.
I'm watching NFL Network.
Okay.
I'm doing NFL Network as well, and I got it, as you might be able to see with the little bit of reflection.
Yeah.
I have my big monitor next to me streaming it.
But I will say, though, they did a lot of collaborative work this year, which I thought was awesome. Like, they did some crossovers. I would love it if they did more of that, honestly.
By the way, I didn't even realize it. The Jags traded pick 36 too. So they traded this year's 2nd, and they gave up a first. Like, the Browns cleaned up.
Yeah, and they need all those picks. They don't have just one big need, and obviously having Travis Hunter would have been nice for them, but not worth as much as having a lot of chances at getting other impact players as well. So, and again, just moving 3 spots back, you're still going to get an impact guy. Just moving 3 spots back. So
that's a no-brainer for Cleveland.
Yeah, the Browns actually did something good.
And it does open up what I was talking about at the top of the show. If the Niners were to trade down into the 20s, the Browns would be one of those teams that I would worry about trading up to jump the 49ers to get whatever player the 49ers were hoping would fall to them. Because now with 36, if they trade that 36 in the 2026 first round pick, they could jump into the early 20s, probably trading that package. So They could jump from 36 to 22, 23. And if the Niners have traded down, that might end up costing the 49ers. That's the potential, I think, to shake up the draft now, is that the Browns have to be watched.
Yeah.
Luke Walsh says, I wish Lynch got that kind of offer in 2017. Remember, that was when the Bears traded up with the Niners for Mitchell Trubisky. The Niners traded the number 2 pick in that draft. They got the number 3 pick. They got a 3rd rounder, a 4th rounder, and a 2018 3rd rounder. Still good, but that was a little different because they only moved down 1 spot, but it's not anywhere close to what Cleveland got. Cleveland absolutely, they cleaned the Jags clock, in my opinion.
And I mean, that's crazy because, the Jags, new GM, new head coach there. So this is kind of like their first big move with that regime. And I don't know if I love the return on investment here with them.
Hopefully the GM has learned how to say Duval.
Well, no, that was Liam Cohen. That was the coach. He's
the
one that whiffed it in his
I
press
could have
conference.
sworn that was the GM that whiffed it, but
Which is funny because even I know how you're supposed to say
I know.
it. Not the head coach of the team. You'd think he would have learned that.
Duval.
Yeah, okay. Come on, Jacksonville. Get the pick in. Let's go. We all know it's going to be Travis.
Oh, the NFL Network is saying pick is in. They just haven't announced it yet.
It's like you trade up and you take this long.
Right.
Come on now.
You trade up and they still don't know who they're picking. Who would make a trade up in the draft and not know who they're going to pick? No team would ever do that, right?
Rob, you were a producer for a big time show. I guarantee the NFL goes, hold on, delay this. It's not time for a commercial break yet.
They're like, this is moving too fast.
Right. Too fast, too slow. They'll adjust so that they can try to get their commercial breaks within their windows.
It's funny because this was the first time going into the draft, I think in the common draft era, that every team owned its own first round pick. There had been no moves, and everybody said, I don't know if there's going to be trades.
Look who's coming out. It's Eric Armstead.
We already have one, and Eric Armstead's going to announce that the commissioner's not even going to announce the 2nd pick in the draft. I mean, come on. But Jordan Schultz just tweeted, trades are just starting. So, we thought maybe this would be a quiet draft, but maybe it's going to get a lot more, shaken up, so to speak. I hope it does. I root for chaos. And I think, what is the saying, Steph? Chaos is a ladder?
I don't know that saying.
You don't watch Game of Thrones?
What?
You don't watch Game of Thrones?
I don't. I never had any interest in it. I'm watching Last of Us. Never watched Game of Thrones. I could care less. Don't want to watch it ever.
Wow.
But I think there are going to be some more trades happening. Wasn't it the Bears that wanted to move up too?
Yes, for Jeanty was somebody that I heard he could go there to Chicago. We know obviously that's Ben Johnson. He loves to run the ball. They did all this work on their offensive line, so some people are thinking that. Looks like the commissioner, Nick Ellert says, Steph only watches film. That's well done. Looks like the commissioner is at the podium. He's handed the microphone to Eric Armstead.
He's up there because he was the 2024 Walter Payton Man of the Year.
Yes, he was. Love Eric Armstead. Good dude. Solid guy. No complaints about Eric Armstead. And
we're about to find out who streams ahead of the other.
I know. I mean, I don't want to
we already know
sure
who the
we all
pick
know
is.
it's Travis Hunter, but look, for 30 seconds last year, the Niners drafted Cooper DeJean. Does anybody else remember that? We thought it was Cooper DeJean for a non-insignificant amount of time. So I'm trying to, wait my turn, but the pick is in. It is Travis Hunter. And maybe Jacksonville's like, yeah, we'll give up a bunch of stuff, Levin, because we're going to get a corner and a wide receiver. Do you think he could actually play both?
To a small degree, yes. I don't think it's possible at the NFL level to get the practice reps necessary to be like starting caliber at both. Unless he is one of the, the Deion Sanders level prospects where it's a one of one every 30 years type. Mm-hmm. You can't get the reps in. And the NFL, you need those reps, whether it's wide receiver running routes or cornerback defending against those. I just don't see how he can do it at an elite level. But I do think that he could be somebody that comes in and maybe subs a little bit on defense and mainly plays wide receiver.
You can't play corner part-time, though, can you, Steph? I feel like if you're a corner, you could play wide receiver part-time.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think He's going to try. I mean, he's definitely going to try. He's told teams he wants to do both, but realistically, yeah, I think for a team, you got to protect the player from himself, right? I mean, we talk about that even with Christian McCaffrey. Now imagine a Christian McCaffrey on both sides of the ball. Like, that would be a nightmare. And you'd always be worried about him getting hurt. It's going to be double the risk for him. And not just that, but just like the conditioning that's involved with that, a full NFL season, like which he hasn't experienced yet. So by the end of it, like how is he going to feel? That's just going to put a lot of wear and tear on his body. That's, not necessary. And for a team that's making this big of an investment, not just this pick, but all the picks that they gave up for him. I mean, you're going to have to do some protecting of him.
Ray Netchie on Twitter, somebody I used to work with at ESPN Radio, with the tweet of the draft so far. A Browns-Jags trade. Draft day was ahead of its time. That is crazy. That is the actual trade from the movie, which I was tempted to watch today just because I was so pumped up about the draft. Even though it's a terrible movie, I was tempted to put it on. But Jacksonville's swinging for the fences, man. Good for them. I like when teams in general say, bleep it, let's do it. Let's make a big move. I know, sometimes it's not rational and things like that, but sports is also supposed to be fun. And especially for me as a team, I don't have any skin in this game because they're not my team. I like it. It makes the Jags more interesting than they have been since when, Levin? How many years? I mean, honestly.
Since Jalen Ramsey, probably.
Yeah.
What was that, 2017 year of the Jags with the Bortles? But all I'll say is if you're going to trade up and spend that kind of capital to get there, play the guy. And you all know what I'm getting at. If you're trading up that and giving up that amount of capital, you better see what the guy has. Give him actual game reps to see what he is. As far as him playing two ways, I think you have to give him that shot because otherwise you're just going to immediately piss him off, right? And you don't want to do that. You want to give him his chance. And when you see the negative side of it, you approach him and you tell him, like, look, this is not possible at this level.
I think that's the perfect way to go about it.
Modelo Time 1999 on Twitch says, if Trent Baalke was still the GM, the trade would have leaked weeks ago. I don't think Baalke ever makes that trade, to be honest with you. I don't think there's any way. But this is part of it with Jacksonville, right? There's a new regime. You're trying to convince players. You're trying to convince fans. Things are going to be different. It's not the same old Jags. It's not the same old thing we've always done. And part of it is a deal like this. It says to people, oh, all right, we are going to make big moves. We're going to bring in a weapon for our quarterback that everybody says shouldn't have been paid and everybody thinks stinks. We're going to help this guy out by giving him an elite weapon in the draft and maybe also help our defense at the same time. Those Travis Hunter Jags jerseys, he's going to be right at the top of jersey sales next year.
Assuming he allows it. Hello, Marvin Harrison.
Well. True.
I mean, but yeah, for a new regime that, is wanting to stake their claim, I think this, you want to be aggressive and they're doing that. So it is admirable, even if, we don't agree with what they gave up for it.
Oh, wow. I would not have guessed that. It has been since 1997 when it happened twice since a team has traded up to the top two, not for a quarterback.
Interesting. Yeah, that's true.
I would not have guessed that's been almost 30 years since that happened.
So the pick is in. It's Travis Hunter. That puts the New York Giants on the clock. Now, there was some thinking that maybe the Giants could make a move with a trade. Steph, do you think that New York is going to stay at 3?
No, I'm monitoring, Twitter. I'm not going to tip the pick or anything, but I'll say it seems like they're staying at that pick, which, there was some talk that maybe they weren't all too decided on who they were going to pick, which, can we talk about that for a second? Because I'm just like, how have you gone through this entire process? And you're one of the first few teams, right? The first 2 picks ahead of you are already decided. Like, how can you not have an idea at that point who you want to go with? Like, that to me tells me there's a lot of division in, your draft room, which I think is a bit of a red flag, but yeah, they're sticking with the pick. I guess the pick is in, as we're seeing on the NFL Network here.
Yeah, I think he's announcing it now, but The Giants in decision making has not been a strength for quite some time.
Yeah, as we know.
Especially indecision, as we saw last offseason with Saquon Barkley. So I think that is 100% their MO.
And as Nick Eller points out, Adam Silver was embedded in the Jags draft room. Or not Adam Silver, Mike Silver. Sorry, the NBA commissioner is not in the Jags draft room. Mike Silver is in the Jags draft room, so he'll have some details on that. The pick is in. The New York Football Giants have selected Abdul Carter, defensive end out of Penn State. So we didn't have the teams right, but I think everybody sort of thought, right, Steph, that the top 3 picks in this draft were going to be Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter.
Yep. So far, it's going exactly as planned. Do you see that chain on Abdul Carter? I mean, wow, that's amazing. But yeah, I mean, no surprises as far as the picks go so far. And I think number 4, based on the mocks that we've seen in the last 24 hours, probably going to be Will Campbell to the Patriots, unless there's some surprise here.
So that's the thing. Now I think we really get into the nitty-gritty situations here. What are the Patriots going to do? What are the Browns going to do now that they're in 5? You think it's just going to be ho-hum offensive line? Because, like, look, if I'm the Patriots, who is Drake May throwing to? Like, get that man a weapon. I actually like Drake May. You know, he did some different interesting things. Like, are we sure it's going to be an offensive lineman? Because, you know, Ted McMillan is there. Every wide receiver, Ty Warren is there. Like, I would try to get him a weapon, Steph.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely does. And I feel like this has been an issue for the Patriots for years now. They really haven't had the guy for their team to pair with their quarterback. And, you know, in the past, they haven't had that good of a quarterback anyway. But now you got Drake May. But you also have to be able to protect him. Like, he was one of the most sacked quarterbacks maybe last year. Like, he's always running for his life. So you made an investment on Drake May, and I think protecting that investment involves you know, protecting him. I think he has shown he could get the ball out, you know, to his receivers no matter who they are. And Kendrick Bourne, you know, he's still there. He's a reliable guy. He's not an alpha, and he's never going to be, but yeah, they definitely do need someone. I think you can address that in the second round. There's some nice wide receivers in this class that they can look to. Hopefully not Mykel Williams, because I want him on the Niners. But no, I mean, realistically, I don't even think he would make sense in like the second round for the Niners, where I am expecting him to go. So, but it'll be interesting to see who they pick up.
Thank you for picking up the slack, Steph. As viewers may have noticed, I am still under the weather. I am better than I was 2 days ago, but right now I have the cough kicking my hiney.
Been there.
Hiney? I mean, ass is the
I'm
one.
I'm trying not to cuss. Oh, you allow that one? Okay.
That's the only. You've already said something. I'm going to have to go back. You know, I probably won't. It's going to be a 3-hour show. I'm not going through 3 hours bleeping everything. I probably will just let it fly tonight. Plus, I got a big thing of water here. I always make fun of Michelle because I call her a beverage gremlin because she always has 3. I got a big thing of water and I got 2 beers. So I am ready for tonight's extended marathon broadcast. Got to keep the voice sounding good. So
good idea.
I got to be prepared. That's all I'm saying. You know, I have to drink the beers for the audience.
Oh yes. Lighten you up a little bit. But no, I brought everything. I was prepared, except for I forgot cough drops. And that's like one of the most important things I needed. So
way to go. Steph just alerted me to an interesting tweet from Diana Rossini, who's been in the news for a couple of different reasons in recent days. But Diana tweets that the Browns are taking calls on teams interested in the number 5 pick, and she is told that Cleveland is open to moving down again. Look, we know the Browns are in a sorry situation with Deshaun Watson and that whole thing, who tore his ACL twice in like 6 months, or his Achilles, excuse me, not his ACL. They desperately need picks. They just signed Myles Garrett to a monster contract. I get the trade down once, Levin. Do you like multiple trades down?
If there's nobody that they really love, yeah. If they trade down, let's say they get 8, 9, 10, somewhere in that range, are you really losing anything? Because I think we're past the point of like, oh, these guys are above everybody else. The best quarterback is gone. The best skill position player is gone.
Mm-hmm.
and the best pass rusher's gone. Everybody else, I don't think there's a huge difference between. The best offensive tackle, there's a little bit of a drop there, but I think as we've seen in history, maybe not. Like, it's not that for sure. Whereas I think Abdul Carter clearly is a step above all the other pass rushers. So I don't mind them moving down as long as it's not too far.
Steph, what do you think? If you're a Browns fan, are you happy hearing that they may move down twice?
I'd have a hard time seeing the vision right now, and I think it would be a little deflating, the process of having all these months where you're figuring your team is going to be drafting Travis Hunter. You have bought into that idea. You feel comfortable with it. You're excited about it. And then all of a sudden, the day of, you start hearing all these rumors that, they're trying to trade back. And not just that, now the pick that they've traded back to, they want to trade back even further. I mean, what is the vision? It doesn't seem like there's one particular player that they're targeting. I think the goal of what they're doing is trying to get more picks because they have a lot of needs. They're trying to get more bites at this apple. And I mean, that I can understand. They're a sorry team, but at some point there needs to be a clear vision of how they want to do this. And, what are they going to do at quarterback, right? I think that's the big
Did you
question.
see the tweet? There was a comment there. Browns are tanking for Arch Manning. Maybe that's their vision.
That could be the vision.
Multiple year tank.
Could be.
The thing is, we know the Mannings are not scared to say, no, we're not going to that franchise. And I do think Cleveland with Deshaun Watson issues and all that, I would not be surprised at all if Cleveland is on the list of teams that Arch Manning would play hardball with and say, I'm not signing with you.
Also, yeah, Nick Ellert says the Manning family won't let that happen. Do we know Arch Manning is any good? Also, other than his name being Manning, are we sure? He still hasn't really played that much.
If I needed a quarterback, it's definitely who I would take the gamble on.
Sign Me 29 says, you think a Manning is going to let their kid go to Cleveland? And Benjamin points out that the Browns don't actually have to work to tank, that pretty much either way they would be tanking. There's over 1,000 people watching right now. That is absolutely incredible. Thank you so much, everybody. If this is your first time checking out the Gold Standard Podcast Network, welcome. We're here. We're live every single weekday for you. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. I promise you we will continue to earn your time. If you're watching on the 49 Carats YouTube channel with Steph Sanchez, definitely subscribe. She just had Matt Barrows on. He was singing her praises when he was on. So definitely two channels that you should like and subscribe to. The Cleveland
How was his
Browns.
singing voice? You said he was singing?
It was all right.
Once again, Levin slams the brakes on the show to
It is a 3-hour show. You need some humor, okay?
If it was
when it
voice,
gets,
I wouldn't have turned my chair. Let's just say that.
let me know when the humor arrives, Levin. I'll just say that. The Cleveland Browns are picking at 5, so that is good. The Patriots have taken Will Campbell at number 4, so they did not go the weapon for Drake May. They went offensive line. They went the solid, not sexy route. So that is, again, as we sort of expected. So 1 to 4, things are good for the 49ers right now. We'll see what happens at number 5. I'm seeing some rumors that bad things may be happening at number 5. But what do you think of the Patriots' Will Campbell pick, Steph?
This guy looks like he's 30 already. I mean, which, I think is probably, sorry, Levin, to make you laugh and cough. But yeah, I think, like I said, this is a good move in order to protect your investment in Drake May. And look, there's going to be a lot of offensive tackles going in the first round based on all the rumors that we've heard. So to get the guy that you need, there's no guarantees you're going to be able to find a guy that maybe you liked in the second round, because it looks like a lot of them are going to be going quite early. So if you got the first pick and you could start it off here with Will Campbell, I think that's a really good move. He's a wall.
Okay, first off, we got to get comments. Good suit or bad suit choice, because this is not one I've seen before. That is a ugly shade of green for me, but I
actually like it.
So I hate green.
I don't hate it. I would have liked the pinstripes to be a little thinner, but it's a clean look, I think. Yeah.
Look, that's a big move, because you're going to be looking at that suit you're going to look back, right, forever. Like, this is one of those things, it's like a wedding photo, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're going to be looking at this thing over and over again. I don't know that I would have gone green. That is, you know what? It's bold. I'll say that for him.
They're in Green Bay. It's the color of the draft this year, so
True.
But
True.
the pinstripes are too bold. If they were thinner, I think it'd be a cleaner look. It's always better to go with like a classic look.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. San Mateo says horrific color, but double-breasted all day. Completely disagree. Hate the double-breasted suit. It's terrible. I never thought it looked good. I can't believe it's back. All right.
I just hate suits.
What was that one like NBA draft where like everyone had like the baggiest suits that have ever
was the
existed?
LeBron draft, wasn't
2003, I think. Yeah. I Googled it because I'm like, this. I'm gonna send you the picture, Rob, because this is atrocious.
So are the Raiders now on the clock at 6 overall? That means the pick must be in for the Cleveland Browns.
I already saw it on Twitter.
I've seen some things on Twitter, but I don't want to. I'm nervous about things that are on Twitter.
Not going to tip picks.
It's true.
We'll
after
wait.
last year, Twitter has proven not the most reliable. Yeah,
true.
So what are we hoping for as 49ers fans at 5? I mean, the three guys that I kind of want, obviously Mason Graham would be number 1 on my wish list. Walter Nolan would be up there, and I'm a Mykel Williams fan. Like I know I'm maybe alone on that branch, but that's where I'm up there. So as long as one of those 3 is not taken by the Browns, I will be happy.
I'm not going player specific. I'm going position. If it's not a pass rusher, defensive tackle, or offensive tackle, I'm ecstatic. That's where I'm at. If it ends up being another offensive tackle or a defensive tackle, the rest of the picks, I don't want to see that position. I don't want any position to have a run. I want when the Niners get there, there's an option at each position and they can pick the best.
If you're watching on the stream, Steph just sent me the picture of the NBA draft suits, the LeBron James here. They are so, look at Carmelo Anthony on the left.
Think about
they're drowning in these suits.
And they're 6'8", they're like 6'8" or taller. So like those suits got to be like, hey, give me the Shaq size of a suit and I'll wear it.
And no one had a tailor apparently. Like they just did not exist for this year.
That's a lot of fabric. I'll just say that. Oh, man, is that a lot of fabric?
Oh, my God.
Okay, well, hey, you do you. Heineman on Twitch says those are capes. Well done.
Oh, boy. I'm seeing the Cleveland Browns war room, and on the left, it certainly looks like you can see their big board.
Oh, yes.
But how clearly, though? How clearly could you see?
I guarantee somebody's figuring that out right now.
Give me the picks. I want to know what do the Jags have up there.
You couldn't read it from where it was because it was like a little small. But if you zoomed in, maybe you could pick up some stuff. I'm not sure.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I guarantee 31 other teams are trying to figure it out.
Well, yeah.
Whether or not they can. Yeah. What draft was that? Was that the Cowboys draft board that got shown around pick 5, and you knew their entire top 50?
Dude,
football is never the number 1 priority for them. So why would hiding their draft board be the number 1 priority? I haven't seen I can't hear obviously what Will Campbell is saying, but apparently he's wiping back tears, man. That's crazy.
Is it though?
It's got to be emotional. I mean, shoot.
Oh boy. I still haven't seen the official pick, but I am not liking. The rumors are that the Cleveland Browns are taking Mason Graham. And if that is true, that is just going to just let all the air out of my balloon, Steph, because I had started to believe.
It is. Goodell just said it.
But let's be honest. This was something that became more of a possibility in the last 24 hours. That balloon didn't have a lot of air in it to begin with, I think. So,
imagine being the Cleveland Browns fans, going through all that they go through, having the number 2 pick, being able to get a generational playmaker of a talent, trading down, and then getting a dude that's rocking just a straight goatee.
Hey, you know what? It has been a huge night for the Browns. They've picked up an extra 2nd-round pick. They've picked up an extra 1st-round pick. And now they get Mason Graham, who before the last week was a top 3 pick in this draft. You've got to be ecstatic right now. If you're a Cleveland Browns fan, you put him right next to Myles Garrett and you say, hey, Just be this man's shadow. Follow this man everywhere. Learn everything you can from him. That is a fantastic night for the Cleveland Browns in just over 44 minutes of actual draft time, Steph.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think as far as the players that have gone so far, there really haven't been any surprises if you think about what we thought was going to happen in the last couple of weeks, right? Like if you don't count the last 24 hours where rumors are just flying all over the place. And so I think, things are going towards what we thought could happen for the 49ers. And, Levin, you mentioned, or was it Rob? Like one of you guys mentioned Mykel Williams. I think that's my top choice for the 49ers. If they go edge, if they go defensive tackle, my top choice is Walter Nolan. As of right now, that's still very much in play. And I don't know if you saw the tweet that I sent you, Rob, but it looks like who was it? The
Carolina's been fielding calls about trading.
Yeah, so this is interesting too, because I think a lot of people were expecting Jalen Walker could go to Carolina. And I mean, if there's a team that's willing to move up, maybe they go Jalen Walker, but maybe they go somewhere else. And so I think that's an interesting spot. I know Jalen Walker maybe doesn't really fit the 49ers, and there's a lot of questions on what his role will be at the next level, but that dude can play. Like, I love Jalen Walker. If the 49ers decided to draft him and they were like, we'll just figure the rest out later, I would not even be mad, because that's just a guy who he will play on Sundays. And he will do a damn good job. If you watch his film, he was one of the players that I enjoyed watching the most. This dude flies to the ball, whether he's at linebacker, whether he's at the edge. So I'm a huge Jalen Walker fan. So I'm curious now to see where he goes if that Carolina pick does end up getting traded.
I got a conspiracy theory here based on Mason Graham. Cleveland probably didn't talk to him because that would have tipped the hand they're trading down, right?
Maybe.
So they couldn't be saying, hey, we're going to take you at 5. Mason Graham was wearing a silver and dark gray watch, a silver chain, a silver bracelet, a silver or gray suit, and a black shirt underneath. What if the Raiders said, we will take you at 6 if you're there at 6? And he had not heard from the top 5 because he didn't know the trade was happening and Cleveland couldn't reach out. So I say that because what are the Raiders going to do now?
I think the Raiders, look, it's Pete Carroll, right? What does Pete Carroll love to do more than any coach on the face of the earth?
Chew gum.
All right, that's true. He likes to run the ball. And if you're a Raider fan and you're Pete Carroll and you're looking and you're like, well, you know who's still there? The running back that everybody loves, that everybody thinks is so cool. Ashton Jeanty is right there for the picking. And look, 70-something-year-old men do not change their stripes, okay? You are who you are at that age. I think Pete Carroll's going Jeanty.
Well, we're about to find out.
It's very well possible. And again, that's the guy that had been through much of this draft process. He's been the most mocked player to the Raiders, I think. So that would make a lot of sense. In the last, 24 hours, we're seeing some Kelvin Banks in there, which would be absolutely insane at pick 6. But also, you got guys like Ben Albright saying Kelvin Banks is going to go a lot higher than people think. So I guess I didn't really bat an eye to it because I'm like, okay, 6 is really early, but if you say so. But yeah, it could go either way, really. And I got it on the screen now, so yeah.
I'm seeing some hugs and hand pounds that Ashton Jeanty is the 6th overall pick for the Las Vegas Raiders. Corey Matthews says the show with Dieter got me on Mykel Williams. Thank you, Corey. Dave says props to the Gold Standard. I have the TV feed on mute and I'm only listening to the Gold Standard feed. That is exactly how you should be consuming the draft. Thank you, everybody. But hey, the Raiders get Jeanty. What are they going to do at quarterback? I don't know. What is it, Geno there? I mean, that's going to look for a year, 2. I don't think he's a long-term answer, but They got what Pete Carroll likes, and that is a running back. And by the way, that sound you hear is fantasy owners clamoring to draft Ashton Jeanty.
That's the real talk about Jeanty. Where do you draft him in fantasy now? Is he a top 5 pick?
He's going to get 3,000 carries for the Raiders next year.
But the question is he going to get those carries at the goal line? 1 yard left to go.
He'll never live it down. Poor Pete Carroll. You blow one Super Bowl and no one ever lets you hear the end of it. Signed, Kyle Shanahan.
He's blown 2, though.
Kyle. Yeah,
yes.
It's true. Although not like that. That was
he's got a 1-up to Pete Carroll.
Right. He's better at Pete Carroll as everything. Yeah. Thank you. So Jeanty goes 6. So Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, Will Campbell, Mason Graham, and Ashton Jeanty. That puts the Jets on the clock at number 7. I saw a lot of people mocking Ty Warren to the Jets at number 7. They got bigger problems than getting a tight end. I don't see it.
I'm not buying that. You know what I'm starting to realize is that the mock drafts from the last 24 hours were just smoke screens. Like some last minute smoke screens, because all these teams seem to be doing exactly what everyone else thought they were going to do. Mm-hmm. And, aside from the trade, but again, like the order of the players is exactly what we thought it was going to be much of this offseason. So it's really hasn't been too many shockers here. And so we'll see. Hey, who's the woman on NFL Network who's interviewing Jeanty now? Because her jacket, she's putting some of these suits to shame with that jacket.
That is a very flashy and bold jacket.
I'm telling you, green is the color of the day.
Green's my favorite color. So they say geniuses pick green.
I knew I hated you. Green is like the one color I hate. I don't want anything green. I don't have a single pair or item of clothing that is green.
Oh, that's weird. The Raiders take Ashton Jeanty. He's the second running back taken in the top 10 in the last 7 drafts, and the highest running back taken since Saquon went second to the Giants in 2018, according to Josh Dubow. Third Raiders running back taken in the top 10 in the common draft era. Ashton Jeanty, Darren McFadden, not so good. Marcus Allen, Hall of Famer. So it's a roll of the dice, but hey, Raiders are going to Raider. I will say, if you like Jeanty, pick Jeanty, but don't pick Jeanty because Saquon Barkley had a good year last year. That seems like really weird logic to me. Like, oh, now all of a sudden running backs are really good? Like, no, Saquon Barkley is really good, but hey,
this guy in 6 years will have an MVP caliber season
for somebody else.
I mean, good running backs are good though, and I think that's what Barkley and even McCaffrey the year prior it reminded teams that like those are the guys. If no one else, those at least are the running backs that you should value, and they are still valuable to your teams. They could turn your season around. They could turn your team around, as we've seen. But it looks like the Jets pick is in right now. They're in commercials, so it might take a second here, but I'm not buying the Tyler Warren, talk again. I just think that's the last minute kind of smoke screen, and I think it was Arman Membu who was getting mocked to them more often than not in the last few weeks or months prior to the last 24 hours, which I'm not believing anymore. So even the Gray Zabel. Out of nowhere. I think I'm forgetting about that one already too.
That was Daniel Jeremiah, right?
Yes. Yep.
All right. Well, I don't know about that one. I mean, I like Gray Zabel, especially because his name sounds like a character from Game of Thrones. But I do think that 11 might be a little
Game of Thrones, man. What the hell?
It was kind of a big show. Steph. Just saying. Sort of
it
culture.
Ended like 2 years ago. Move on.
Still not over.
5 years ago, but.
4King Crazy says
really?
green, red. So I know red is supposed to be the color of the day here on the Niners show, but I'm a green fan. Let's welcome in another member of the broadcast team, another member of the Bully Ball podcast staff. Your partner, Jason Aponte, is here. Jay, what up?
What's going on? The Mason Graham dream dead at number 5. It was nice few hours while it lasted, but you know what? If we would have just stuck to our guns, not thinking that he would have ever fell, we wouldn't be disappointed.
Exactly.
What is your take, Jay, on how things have gone so far from the Jags Browns trade to just how the board has fallen through the first 6-7 picks?
I will say, and it does sound like the Jets took Arman Membu, so we can take that off the board. I don't want to be like one of those people that spoils the picks, but I actually appreciate what the Jaguars have done and swing, for the fences with an offensive minded coach like Liam Cohen, and you already have Brian Thomas. Putting somebody like Hunter on the other side, the consensus number 1 wide receiver, to an offensive mind and a franchise that desperately needs a shot in the arm of anything. I like it. And I think it was smart for the Browns as well, too, because the Browns move back. They end up with Mason Graham. You pair him with Myles Garrett, and you stock the cupboard. You're going to be shit this year. Oh, sorry. Can't be cursing, right? You're going to be terrible this year, too, and you're going to have high picks. So, I understand why Cleveland did it. It worked for both sides. Might be a risk for some people, too much that Jacksonville has given, but I appreciate it. No risk it, no biscuit. Go for it while you have Liam Cohen and these young guys.
They definitely gave up a lot to get him. By the way, Nick Ellert says Jason spoils the pick and then says, I don't want to be a pick spoiler.
I'm sorry. I won't do it again. I apologize.
How dare you on the program?
No, I'm sorry. People really don't like that.
I agree, though. It's weird to say that the Browns made a good move, but I think the Browns made a good move. I posed this question to Levin, Jay. I said, this makes the Jags the most interesting they've been since when?
Yeah, exactly. And if not now, then when? New GM, obviously a wonder kid kind of guy from the Rams. New coach who is just coming off of a season, 2 seasons with the Buccaneers where he maximized everything from Baker Mayfield. Why wouldn't you try this now? And then the question becomes, how much is he going to play on offense and defense? It's got to be 75-25. I think, you use him sporadically on defense and use him very much for his wide receiver skills more.
We'll see how they decide to do it. I'm sure they'll find a way to screw it up. Let's be honest. Certain teams screw certain things up. Brisbee Life says, one day this will be a Twitch-only stream and you can all curse as much as you want. It's not a YouTube thing. YouTube doesn't care. I care. Because if you want to listen to this with your kids in the car, I don't ever want people to have a reason to turn it off. So that's why I generally don't do that. Looks like they have officially announced Arman Membu as the pick for the New York Football Jets. So that is in. We are 7 picks down. There was a tweet earlier that the Panthers were taking calls about trading down from 8. Niners are at 11. It's not that much of a jump. Would you, Levin, support the Niners moving up to 8 to get, I don't know, Walter Nolan if they think Nolan's going to be the guy?
No.
Picks in either way.
Yeah, if you're trading up to get like a franchise quarterback at the very top of the draft, I can agree with that. Like the Trey Lance move, I still don't disagree with. It didn't work out, but you're desperate when you need a franchise quarterback. But outside of that, I never want to trade up in the first round. Now, if you're talking about like trading up out of the second round to get back into the first round to get somebody that slid or to try to get that 5th-year option with a player, I can get behind that. But I don't care to move up early in the draft.
Steph, what are you hoping for right now? There's 7 picks down. The Panthers pick is in. What are you hoping for?
I just saw what it is, and I think it's a good thing for the 49ers. I'll just put it that way.
Oh, all right. Now I want to.
It's not a defensive player. That's what I'll say.
So it's a tight end.
Could it be a weapon, perhaps, for their quarterback, who I thought, honestly, oh, wait, are they finally showing it? Are they showing the Jets draft blunder? They are. I love this. Every year they have that montage of horrible Jets draft picks over the years. They are finally showing it. I love it. There's a guy in there because they used to announce the picks, position, and then name, and then school. And so at one point, Pete Rozelle says the Jets first round selection, fullback, and there's a guy in the crowd that just yells, "Oh no!" And it makes me laugh every single year, and they show it, and I look forward to it every single year, and they're showing it right now. Sorry, didn't mean to completely divert everybody, but I do get excited by stupid things.
That's my job, okay? I'm the derailer here.
Well, yeah, that is true for most of the time. Steph, who did you see rumored since we've been talking about it?
All right, and for those that don't want picks tipped, cover your ears. It's Pat McMillan at 8.
Ooh, Ted McMillan. That's too high.
I mean, yeah, a little high. I think maybe I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking, but that one is a bit of a surprise because I think that's one of the only picks to this point where it's a little different than what we expected to happen to this point, right? So that's a good wrench, in my opinion, for the 49ers. No defensive player. Jalen Walker's still on there. Mykel Williams. This is going okay, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, Jay, what do you think that does for the 49ers? That makes it more likely we end up with somebody along the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, and now is where after this pick it gets really interesting because the New Orleans Saints have a chance to do the funniest thing in the world because they need a quarterback. And if they do that, and then Chicago doesn't go with Kelvin Banks and they go with Omarion Hampton, now you're really talking. Now, but again, I'm gonna run this by you guys. The idea of having too many options. Mykel Nolan and this guy. If you have too many options, you have no options, right? So that's the part that scares me. I almost want two of these guys to go off the board so the Niners don't have to sit there and, which one? And then we end up comparing all three of them for the rest of their careers and who the 49ers had.
That's if they stay. That's the thing I would say is if it goes the way you just put, then I would say number 10, number 11, those two picks are going to get calls of people wanting to trade up because some people felt that they didn't think would be there. So at that point, if let's say the Niners have three people on the board and they're getting offered pick 15, do they go ahead and trade down? That's what I would get scared of. All right, they got too many options here. They're going to take whatever offer they get to move down.
Well, Jay, tell us what Mike Tannenbaum told you about trading down and sort of how you have to sort of think about things if you're going to do that move, because I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting too. When he says no matter how many spots it is that you trade back, you better have that many players that you're in love with. Meaning if you're trading back 8 spots, you better have 8 players on your board that you really like. Not that you're targeting one player. And he said, look, it's gone very well where we've traded back and we've gotten the guy we wanted. It's gone poorly where we've traded back and we didn't get the guy we wanted, but it worked out because the guy never ended up being who we thought he was. But that's very interesting because it felt like that is organizationally how it works in the NFL when it comes to any sort of trade back. I thought that was a really nice tidbit when he told me that.
I think that's a really interesting way to think about it. Mike is a smart guy. I always like talking with Mike. So the Niners, I mean, you've still got Walter Nolan on the board. You've still got Jalen Walker on the board. You've still got Mykel Williams on the board. There's 3 picks before you. As long as, well, 2 picks. No, excuse me.
Right, they would be guaranteed one of those 3.
Picks. So yeah, like
it's a good spot.
Yeah, they seem to be in really good shape, especially. I mean, God, please let the Saints go quarterback. Then I feel absolutely I'm doing a friggin' tap dance if the Saints go Shedeur Sanders or Jackson Dart.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. We'll see what they do because, there were rumors they wanted to move off of their spot as well. But I don't – and there could be people interested in trading up now with, Carolina, kind of going off of what people thought they would go with. So there's a team that likes Jalen Walker, for example, or Mykel Williams. Like now would be the time to get in front because everyone knows the 49ers are going a defensive player. Like they have not been as secretive about that unless, they have been and they're going like a tackle or something. But
I can tell things are starting to get real here because we had 1,500 people watching live. It's jumped.
Ooh. There you go.
Definitely
it's almost like the 49ers are picking soon or something.
Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off, Steph. Sorry. But
so
I just noticed it jumped really fast.
If we could pivot the 49ers talk off of Ted McMillan. I'm sorry, Levin. I'm sorry. You got it. My bad.
No. Stop doing that, Levin. Go
ahead. Brad actually spoke with Ted McMillan today about Jacob Cowing. And he said Jacob Cowing's the best receiver he's ever played with, an absolute dog. I don't know what that means for going forward, but we talk about the 49ers looking for a wide receiver, and I'm very sure that they will draft one. But here's a crazy idea. Maybe let's get the kid that we drafted from Arizona going this season, and that might help. I don't know. You know, sometimes I like to think outside the box, you know, and I go off the board a little bit. But yeah, you know, that might be cool.
They played together at Arizona. Dr. Rageface says, third draft I've ever watched live, only here because of the gold standard. Great work, y'all. Keep it up. 2011, 2021, 2025.
Ooh, I know the pick. I'm not going to say anything, but I like it, and it helps the 49ers. I will say that.
All of this is
Speaking
going.
of things you like that up there, Jay? You like that? Purdue Pete up there? Yeah.
Yeah, for anybody that doesn't understand, Levin and I have a rivalry. He's a Purdue Boilermaker. My father is an Indiana Hoosier, and it's like blood rivals, essentially. But yeah, I actually despise that. My stomach was bubbling a little bit.
Once again, Levin derails the show. That's, I think, 3 or 4 times so far in the first hour. So we're up to a good start here. Forking Crazy, YouTube channel member says, Steph, you ledge. Your info was spot on. I don't know what 3/4 of that comment mean.
I think legend. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Man,
I feel old. I need things explained to me. That's all right. I'm struggling here too, apparently. Well, now I want to know who the damn pick is because we're getting down to the nitty gritty here. We're in.
I don't want to
land.
I'm not spoiling it. I'm not spoiling it because I'm not trying to get yelled at either.
I know what it is too, but yeah.
Don't look at the chat. It just got spoiled.
Yeah, don't.
Yeah, it's good for the 49ers. I will say that.
I agree with you, Jay. They're in territory of there's too many options. And now it's like they're fighting in the room. And, you know, look, teams do practice drafts, right? They run through all the scenarios. Did they do a scenario where it's like, what if everyone that we want is there? You know, I always talk about how dealing with success is a skill. It's different from dealing with adversity. You have to learn how to deal with success. Well, the Niners could be dealing with success here because if all the guys they want are there, then you've either got to figure out if you can trade down or you got to just say, screw it. Let's not get too cute. We'll just take the guy, you know, 3 years from now, we're not going to care if we got this guy at 11 or if we got him at 15. So it's dicey territory for the Niners stuff.
Yeah, I think, you know, ideally they have all these guys ranked right ahead of time. Yeah. So even if all these guys are available, they have one guy that they would pick over all the others. But what Jay said, I think is right. Like we as fans and everyone else, media, like we're going to be comparing these players for like the rest of their careers. So whoever is your top ranked player that you're ready to draft better be the right one. No pressure. I
mean, we're 9 picks in, maybe. I mean, the Saints one hasn't officially been announced. There's only been 2 defensive linemen taken, right? Abdul Carter and Mason Graham, and that's it. I mean, I think everybody, you know, thinks the depth of this draft is at the defensive line spot, but I could not have imagined right now a better 8-9 picks for the 49ers than what has happened right now. Honestly, in all the scenarios, I think this is the best possible shape we could be in, Jay.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, when you find out who this pick is, you're going to be even happier. I promise you. But I think what I'm really looking forward to with the 11th pick is trying to figure out whether this was an Adam Peters pick. Ha ha ha. Like that.
Who do we give credit for this, right?
Who do we give credit to?
I talked with Dieter Kurtenbach yesterday, who is phenomenal. I think he's actually live on his channel right now. But he told me the way the Niners used to run the draft was round 1 was consensus, round 2 was Lynch, and round 3 was Kyle's pick. And he said last year they really went away from that because they realized that strategy ain't really working. Maybe took them a little while, but he said they went away from that. John Lynch kept talking about consensus. And that apparently consensus seems to be the word of the day. So maybe, you know, last year was a good draft. Maybe this new strategy will ultimately work for the 49ers, but it's a hell of a lot harder to come to consensus when there's 3, 4, 5 guys that you want instead of just 1 or 2. So we'll see how that battle goes in the room.
If there's fighting going on in that room, my money is on Lynch. Let's just put it that way.
So wait a minute. You mean my anger about Jake Moody should be pointed at Kyle Shanahan?
Still can't let it go.
I mean, you heard his comments at the owners meeting, so it might have actually been him. I mean, by far, he's had some of the worst picks. If he was responsible for those, like that actually makes sense why there were so many running backs in the damn 3rd round.
Picks in.
The Saints pick is in and has been announced. Kelvin Banks Jr., offensive tackle from Texas, is in. So, again, only 2 defensive linemen off the board for the 49ers. Could the Bears go D-line? You think, Levin, that Ben Johnson's going to go D-line, or does he pick out a shiny new toy at running back?
I think if they stay there, they're probably going defensive line. But at this point, I'm leaning towards them trading out because they wanted to trade up. Unless the guy they wanted to trade up for happens to be one of the people that fell, which I doubt, then it makes sense that they would want to trade out at this point because there are people here that I would bet teams are calling wanting to get up for.
Omarion Hampton, baby.
The Saints are one of those teams to me that it's just
I know who the pick is for the Bears, and you're gonna love this too, 49ers fans. My goodness.
Does this? So yeah, this is almost going too well for the Niners. Where I'm like, do they start? Thinking,
wait till you find this one out.
No, I saw. I'm like, are they going to start overthinking this?
They're going to have. They're
Who
going to have their
final
pick.
say? That's what I want to know now because I'm not convinced it's Kyle Shanahan anymore.
Oh baby,
first
you're
of
gonna
all,
love this Bears pick.
Final say on like drafts or no?
Shanahan has.
I didn't spoil anything. I didn't say a name. I know the name. I just kept it to myself. I haven't spoiled a thing.
Shanahan he did have final say over everything. Now, it seems like this offseason his power has been reduced a little bit. So we'll see ultimately. But I still got to think that if he really wants a guy and he pounds the table, I think he's going to get him. So we'll have to wait. Hopefully he doesn't get
somebody actually scouted him. It didn't say, we don't need to scout that position this year.
Matt
Barrows. All right, look, you want me to spoil it? It's not who you guys are saying in the chat. That was just the name that I would love for them to pick so the 49ers would have their choice. I know who it is. It's not who you guys are saying. I haven't spoiled anything.
Matt Barrows just tweeted out Ty Warren, Mykel Williams, Walter Nolan, Shamar Stewart, Kenneth Grant, all available for the 49ers at pick number 11.
Makes me nervous that he listed Tyler Warren in there first, and I'll tell you why. Because we're seeing a run on offensive players right now, and so that's why I was like, are the 49ers going to start overthinking? Where it's like, hey, maybe we can get the defensive guy that we want with our second round pick. With the way this is going, maybe we should go for an offensive player here. I would hate it, but I'm a little worried. I don't know.
Please no Ty Warren and please no Shamar.
Those are the two of that.
Look, I'm not going to say anything. I know the 49ers pick.
Oh, my God.
How do you know it already?
It doesn't matter. I'm not going to say anything. It's fine. Everybody said that it's in.
Well, damn, that was fast. They haven't even announced the Bears pick yet.
To the point earlier, it's like, with all these options that they had a favorite, clearly from that group.
If it's already in, that's quick. But I'm a little worried with Steph's reaction there because she sat back and pondered.
No. I just don't want to I told you guys who I like, so if I act too excited, I'm not trying to hint anything.
All right. Well, first, then let's tell who the Bears picked, and that is Colston Loveland. Did I get that correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so that is the tight end. Hooray. Thank you, Ben Johnson. Still doing things to help the 49ers, even after losing the NFC Championship game. And so now the 49ers are on the clock. I've seen the name on Twitter. I don't want to spoil it because, people like to hear the name that's announced. There's a lot of people that are watching the draft on mute. I don't want to spoil it for them. But damn, first of all, this went by pretty fast. It's only 6:15. And the Niners pick has already been made.
The last 3 went in 10 minutes.
Yeah, the 10-minute rule did not apply. It was bang, bang, bang.
All right, well, people in the chat are spoiling it, so
you want to just throw it out there, Steph?
I'm just saying. All right, it's with the 11th pick in the NFL draft. The 49ers have selected Georgia edge rusher Mykel Williams, and I am happy about this pick. This was one of the picks that I didn't feel like I'd have to explain to myself to try to get to like. So I think this draft went perfectly for the 49ers because I was really convinced that he would be going in like the top few picks before the Niners. So this is awesome.
So let's break it down. And I'm going to just say this. He was the guy that I wanted. I fell in love with Mykel Williams because of Dieter and Hutch. They have convinced me. If you look at the Dieter and Hutch draft guide, you should be very happy because they have Mykel Williams not just as the best edge rusher, not just as the best defensive player in the draft. They have him as the number one player in the entire freaking draft. Now, I don't know if he's that good, but damn, to get that guy at 11 without having to make any trades, this could be a very good move for the 49ers, Jay.
Yeah, and, John Lynch kind of spoiled it himself, talking about setting the edge. I think that's the whole idea of Mykel Williams, and it was all there. I think we were listening. I mean, of all the word salad that he gave, that felt like that was probably the biggest indicator of who it was going to be. But yeah, Mykel Williams is somebody who right now can play on the edge, and it allows them to be free with what they want to do with interior defensive line going forward. But, getting a running mate for Nick Bosa has been something that the 49ers have been trying to do since they had Dee Ford, unsuccessfully, unfortunately. And hopefully this is the long-term answer.
Levin, how you feeling right now?
I told you 4 months ago my preference was on edge. So I'm fine with it. They got one of the top guys. I'm not going to pretend like I know if he's a for sure thing, but I wanted edge. That was my preference going into the draft. I think it was back in January before the regular season even got over. I said edge or offensive tackle, and I have a preference for edge because they've been trying forever to fix that. And I think if they can fix that edge and have a true threat over there, then I think a lot of the issues, the second linebacker, the safeties, things like that, don't really matter a whole lot anymore. I mean, they'll still be in effect, but even if you get into third and shorts, you got 2 sack guys, you're going to be able to get the sack a good bit of the time to be able to save the day.
Steph, for anyone that doesn't know, what do we need to know about Mykel Williams?
I mean, yeah, we've been mentioning it. I think out of the edge rushers, he's one of the best, if not the best, run defender of the group. And with the 49ers, like being one of the worst run defenses last year, I think this fills a huge need for them. And like, he's not that bad as a pass rusher either. Like, I think, from one thing we were mentioning earlier about pass rush arsenal, his is not very deep, but like we were saying, like, I don't think it needs to be very deep. That's something he can work on. But he has a high floor because of the run defense. At the very least, he's going to be able to be in on those base downs early on in his career. So I really like this pick, and I think he's going to fit in great with the Niners.
Let me just read a little bit from the Dieter and Hutch draft guide, if I may. Superlative they put in the Darth Sidious voice: unlimited power. Every down, stud edge rusher, game wrecker once he's healthy and figures out tempo and improves his pass rush craft, which is already at a much higher level than is recognized. His downside is a guy whose technique is a little too sloppy and may never quite learn how to use his body to its full potential. Here's Jake Hutchinson's take. Quote, I mean, good Lord, does this guy drive? And he played on 60% on a bad ankle. I get it. The production of 5 sacks is underwhelming. And after 2 years with 4.5 sacks, but watch the tape, please. Teams had to have a plan for him, and it often involved doubles. And that's just with him playing a hell of a lot of 4-eye and sometimes just straight 3 technique. He didn't just set the edge. He destroyed it consistently, and he was wreaking havoc with power to consistently close the pocket and a swipe move that, while could use sharpening, is very effective. To be a complete edge setter, you need to have power. Mykel is head and shoulders above everyone else with it, and he's not the lost pass rush cause some believe him to be. He's an edge collapsing force with shades of, and I'm quoting still, a T-Rex, but with long arms. That sounds pretty good to me.
It's a hell of a description.
I was going to say, if it's half that, then it's a good pick.
That's true. Gabe Garoni, YouTube channel member, thank you very much for the super chat, says, what happened to Bosa announcing the pick?
I forgot about that.
Oh, that's good.
You gave me the opportunity and everything too. Like, you had me announce it. Is it
That's
too
true.
late?
I blame you. We need Michelle in the box, the final Avenger. Hopefully this is a good sign for the rest of the draft and we can avoid turning into the California Cowboys. I'm happy. this is one of the rare times where the person I wanted the 49ers to pick, they took. Now I fully blame Peter and Hut, but they didn't do this. They didn't do the crazy thing, right? How many times have we talked about with the 49ers where, oh my God, that they took someone that no one had in the consensus, and what are they doing? And well, I hope this is good. Maybe the 49ers know something we don't. They didn't do that, right? Maybe this new draft philosophy thing that they have going on, Jay, is just to do the smart thing.
Well, and I think the tea leaves were all there. You don't bring Robert Saleh and Gus Bradley in and use your first pick on offensive linemen when your defensive line is completely obliterated, right? Your run defense was poor. So you draft the best defending edge rusher to complement all of that. So I think that was part of the deal. Robert Saleh comes over and says, we need to revamp this defense. We're going to lose all these players. And then you go out there and you draft an offensive lineman with the first pick. I don't know if that really makes a lot of sense in rebuilding this team right away. I will say this, for the people that are upset and they want offensive line, after Membu and Campbell, I'm good on the other guys early on. I'd rather take shots at offensive line in the second and third round. There's nobody really here that blows me away. And when you have Nolan and Jahad Campbell and Walker and all these guys on the board, you take a shot on one of those guys, and they took it on Williams. So like the idea that just taking an offensive lineman for the sake of saying that you took a lineman at 11 is poor process and how bad franchises are run.
Well, and I saw the reaction to Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft yesterday, 11, where he had the Niners taking Gray Zabel. And people were flipping out. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Half of you guys complain that Kyle Shanahan doesn't prioritize offensive line. And then you're going to get mad because he prioritized it too much. So it was like whoever they picked, people were going to be unhappy, Levin.
Welcome to fan bases.
Yeah.
Right.
No matter what happens, there's going to be a good-sized group that are unhappy. It doesn't matter. They could win the Super Bowl, and there's going to be people out there whining about the way they did it.
Real Goat 16 says the Niners have a T-Rex on one side and a bear on the other, and a hyena too. And Diamondor, apparently, we're going for like the all-animal defense.
I think that's a good.
And a dog in Malik, right? Yeah,
that's true. I don't know what kind of a personality is Mykel Williams. Is he like a Drake Greenlaw psycho guy? Because I'm not going to lie, like. This defense could use some psychos. Does anybody know?
I don't know. I haven't really heard him speak or anything like that. I mean, if you want to do what 49ers fans are going to do is, every pick is a dog, right? Like that video from that guy. He's like dog. He's like Ari Mabo. He's a dog. Like that's what we should do right now at this point. But yeah, no, I think this is the right pick for the way that you're trying to rebuild this defense and bringing Robert Saleh back. It would have to be one of these guys, and they landed on Mykel. You can't really be upset with that.
I'm trying to look. What has the 49ers said? Oh, did you see the tweet from Jed York? Of course. Jed has to be tweeting. Here's the tweet from Jed York. Saleh is back in the building, ladies and gentlemen. #trenches. When he was hired, Tim Kawakami put out a tweet that said, or an article, and in the article it said that Robert Saleh has more power than he's ever had before. There was a large contingent of people, cough, cough, me, cough, cough as one of them, that says if they decided to move on from Kyle Shanahan, I think Robert Saleh is the coach in waiting. Why not, if you're the 49ers, go with the guy that not only helps you right now, but if you made a coaching change, that number one pick still has the support of the guy that's going to be running your team, Jay.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. We should have seen this coming. You don't bring in Robert Saleh and Gus Bradley and then go offensive line if it's not one of the top guys. You have to rebuild the defensive line, and you have to help with the run defense. And they've done both of those things with this pick, and it's in tandem with the fact that Robert Saleh's here. And I thought it was really interesting in Fred Warner's press conference when he said that he had a meeting with John Lynch, and John Lynch was so excited because he believes that Robert Saleh has developed his scheme and become better, and it's evolved. And I thought that was one of the things that kind of fell by the wayside because everyone was worried about Warner's contract and everything. But there's a lot of positivity in the building because of Robert Saleh, and they do believe in him that much. That's why this pick feels like it had to be defensive line, because then why did you bring Robert Saleh here if you're going to address it later on when you had one of these top guys on the board?
Is it a little weird that the owner is tweeting about the defensive coordinator after they made the first round pick? Or am I reading too much into this, Levin?
No, I would say it's a little weird for the first thing mentioned following the draft. The first round draft pick is the defensive coordinator. A little
like
weird.
It almost feels like Robert Saleh's back. All right, the adults are running the show again.
Yeah.
Doesn't it feel like that, Steph?
Finally got someone who knows what he's looking at with these draft picks, man. No, I mean, look, Robert Saleh is getting paid a shit ton of money. I mean, and that's coming out of Jets' pockets. So I think he's excited to have Saleh back, and I think he knows that he was worth it. I don't know. Yeah, as the comment says here, Jed York is a little weird. But he's excited for Saleh to be back, and maybe wants him to stay more than one season as well. So maybe they're just trying to, butter him up a little bit too.
Jordan Schultz. Owners were silent.
Yeah, exactly. Jordan Schultz tweeted the Niners explored trading up, but ultimately stayed put and got their guy at 11. Now, look, every team is going to tell you after the draft, oh, we got exactly the guy we want him at the spot, but they didn't need to trade up. We've been talking about it now for 20 minutes. So this first round broke perfectly for the 49ers. It was exactly what they wanted if they were going defensive line. And yeah, I'm sure they explored trading up, but they were probably like, well, wait a minute. Mason Graham and Abdul Carter are the only defensive linemen that have gone. We don't need to do anything yet. And they didn't. And they stayed put, and they got the guy that you have to assume it's the guy they wanted because only two other dudes were off the board.
Mason Graham, who?
I mean, I'm sure they would have taken it, but,
that would have taken a bounty to get to 5.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm glad they played it this way because, I don't know if it was something we talked about, Jay, on Bully Ball this week, but it's like, I know at one of my shows I talked about it. You got to let the board just come to you and see how the chips fall. And it played out perfectly for the 49ers. You wouldn't have even known it would have played out that way had you just moved up, right? And you would have given up more picks. You need all these picks to find impact guys on your defense. They still get their guy, and they were able to do that, staying right where they were. So I think smart teams, just kind of wait to see how the draft plays out, and it played perfectly for the Niners.
Let's zoom out.
For the Cowboys.
Let's zoom out a little bit before we get to the Cowboys pick and take a look, since I was just updating the graphic and I want to feel proud of myself. Here is the entire first round as it has gone so far. Fierro says, knowing Mykel's skill set, does that change the second round plan? Do we lean further towards one position versus another right now? I mean, you got to see how it falls, right? If somehow Walter Nolan falls out of round 1, if you could snag Walter Nolan in round 2, Jay, would you even, if you're the Niners, be willing to trade up in round 2 or maybe the back end of round 1 to get a Walter Nolan?
If you get Walter Nolan and you have any position to go get him in the second round, you go get him.
Yeah,
because that's your defensive tackle that I thought, when we talked about it, Steph, right? I said, reading the tea leaves and everything, I thought it would be Walter Nolan. You said you thought it would be Mykel Williams, obviously smartest in the room. But if they can get Walter Nolan in the second round, that's insane value. And it's a player that you can add on top of Mykel Williams. And what I want to say is this: when you're looking at the first round of any draft, I don't think you can fully understand what the draft class is going to look like without the other pieces. And what I mean by that is, in a vacuum, if you're not in love with this first round pick, but you nail your second and third round picks, what does it matter? And what I mean by that is, last year, Ricky Pearsall was the pick, right? And everyone didn't like that. Everyone wanted Cooper DeJean. But then you end up with Pooney, Bernardo Green. Would you have felt better if they took Pooney in the first round and then Pearsall in the second round? Because it doesn't really matter where they land. So I think it's hard in a vacuum to look at this number 1 pick. You have your instant reaction clearly in your take. But until you find out what the second round pick is, it may not come into focus what it is. And if they hit, who cares where you took them?
Steph, I know you got to hop out. I want to give you the final word here. Thank you for joining us for an hour and a half. What's the final word here before you leave us?
Well, yeah, I just kind of wanted to piggyback on that too, because early on in the draft process, I mean, we have kind of seen that in a lot of mocks, Walter Nolan was falling out of the first round in some of them, right? So that very well could be a possibility. And even if it's not Nolan, I do like the possibility of maybe a Derek Harmon. There's some other guys, Kenneth Grant, that could be available around that range. And look, the fact that they were willing to move up in the first round, I think tells you they'd be willing to move up in the second round too if there was a guy that they really liked there. So I'm just so far great start to the draft. I'm really happy. This is weird because we're not usually this happy, but yeah, this is awesome, and this was great. Thanks for setting this up, Rob. And it'll still be streaming on my channel for anyone that's watching. But yeah, I'm gonna hop on my channel and do a show really quick.
How are you gonna hop on your channel when you're live?
Yeah, you can't. You gotta disconnect it.
Oh, okay.
You can't run 2 streams.
Steph wants to take over the world.
I feel
Right.
I feel like I have before, but I'll figure it out. Maybe I'll just delete this one.
Oh, thank you, Steph. We appreciate it. You are the absolute best.
All right,
Nice
thanks,
talking to you,
guys.
Steph.
Let's get to
Peace.
some reaction from fans. We got a couple of super chats here I want to get to. Perfect Blackness has one. Says, I hope I'm wrong, and thank you, Perfect Blackness, for the super chat, but I think Mykel Williams is fool's gold. Walter Nolan or Kenneth Grant would have been better picks. Jay, I don't know. I mean, I know that people fell in love with Walter Nolan, and that's fine, but like Mykel Williams played on a really good defense. They rotated him a lot, so he didn't get maybe as much opportunity as some of the other pass rushers. That may have contributed to his low sack total. And yeah, maybe I'm on the hopium right now. I'm fully willing to admit that. But I mean, I think that this is exactly what they needed, and they still have an opportunity to get a defensive tackle.
Yeah, this definitely doesn't put the 49ers out of taking a defensive tackle, right? I think there's different and multiple ways that you could have done this. If you go Nolan in this round, then do you go Landon Jackson in the second round and get your edge that way? Or, do you go get your edge first and get your defensive lineman there? It just depends on the combination that you prefer. But this definitely doesn't mean that all of a sudden now the 49ers are just like, well, we got our edge guy and that's it. We're done with the defensive line. They absolutely are going to address this one, possibly 2 more times, especially on the back end later rounds where, you can take one of those raw developmental projects and not feel so bad because they're later in the draft as opposed to, somebody a little bit earlier who's raw. So I wouldn't worry as much about this. I just think there's different ways and possibilities to go about this. The 49ers are absolutely going to address this defensive line one more time because they only have like 7 or 8 of them right now as it is, Otherwise, Rob, Levin, and I are going to have to get out there, if they don't do this again. And I don't have pass rush moves.
Levin, what do you
I don't think it would matter if you had pass rush moves because you're going to get all 3 of us would get thrown straight to the sidelines.
Joe Tiz says Williams is Alden Smith 2.0 minus the burner. They are physically similar in terms of height and weight. They're both 6'5", I think. I think that Williams is actually about 10 pounds heavier than I think Alden Smith was 255. I think Williams is like 260, 265, something like that. Doesn't mean they're the same player at all.
Alden had a unique trait that is what made him so great. He had the longest arms you've ever seen.
Yeah.
And that allowed him to get his hands on the offensive tackle before they could get it on him. Alden Smith was so effective, not necessarily because of how great his pass rush moves were or how athletic he was or any of that. It was literally like big brother, little brother fight. He could get his hands on you while you couldn't get your hands on him.
He was simultaneously the toughest guy that Joe Staley and Trent Williams ever faced. Before we get back to anything else, I do have to apologize to Jason Aponte. Jay, I forgot the Yankees hat. I didn't mean to welch on the bet. I lost the bet because I thought that Brandon Ayuk was going to get traded. And I said if I lost, I would wear a Yankees hat on the draft stream. I flat out forgot. I was doing draft prep all day. It's a terrible job out of me. So now I owe you something even bigger. So I have to figure out what it is, but that's my fault.
No, it's fine. I mean, you could just, you can wear the hat, whenever, we could do it again, it's fine. Like just wear the hat. We don't have to do anything more. But yeah, the Miami Dolphins pick is in, and it's going to be very interesting because there was a lot of chatter about Gray Zabel being, almost a lock for them as well, too, right? At 13. So there was a lot of smoke about him being up a little bit further. I wouldn't be shocked if the Dolphins address the defensive line with this pick, right here as well, too. And I think once you get to that point, then 14, I think Tyler Warren's a lock to go to the Colts at that point right there. So like it's starting to round into shape. And I think the important part of watching the board is looking for those opportunities to strike and trade back up, because it does seem like the New York Giants are watching where Jackson Dart falls and want to jump back up. Shedeur Sanders is still on the board right now. So that doesn't, the New Orleans Saints might be eager to do that because they did call about the number 1 pick for Cam Ward that we found out today. But all of these things and any sort of shakeup or any sort of crazy pick only helps the 49ers, because it'll help land, them another player and a shot at that.
That is true. I like crazy picks. I like chaos. As I said, I'm seeing rumors about the Dolphins pick. It's a defensive tackle, I believe. We're not going to spoil it yet. But if that's true, that one name off the board for the 49ers. Let's get to a couple of comments here. Arter says, at least we didn't pick Shamar Stewart. I totally agree. Rachel says, so glad it wasn't Tyler Warren. A lot of people wanting to avoid these sort of landmines, as we talked about, and hopefully the 49ers did that. One good decision that was made by me, quite frankly. I'd like to thank myself, because we have a new addition to the Gold Standard 49ers podcast network. We waited to announce it. The time is now. I would like everybody to give a warm welcome to somebody that a lot of fans wanted to see join the network. It has happened. Mr. Football Academy himself, Johnny Dell, is now officially part of the Gold Standard 49ers podcast team. He joins us here. Johnny, thank you so much for jumping in.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm hyped. I'm not going to lie. I'm hyped about the Mykel Williams pick. I really did like him. I've even got some film to go over if you want it, because I've done a lot of film study on this kid. And I was following, like, I came away from the Senior Bowl really high on Shamar Stewart because he was so impressive there. And then that relationship cooled very quickly in coming away from it and watching some of the tape. Mykel Williams is opposite. As we've gotten closer and closer, I had been warming to him as a pick because I felt like he was the guy that could come in and immediately give you an edge presence against the run. And he was a good, safe pick there that didn't have the potential potholes of some of the other guys. And there's a lot of good defensive players in this draft, and I think they can address a lot of things.
I want to get to that in a second, but I know, Jay, you got to run. Kenneth Grant has officially been drafted by the Miami Dolphins, the defensive tackle out of Michigan. So 13 picks down. How do you feel right now before you bounce?
I feel great. I again, the pick was the pick was just discussed about who it would be, right? Was it going to be Nolan? Was it going to be Williams? Was it going to be Harmon? But it was always going to be defensive line. Again, you don't bring Robert Saleh and Gus Bradley back and then draft an offensive lineman, especially if it's not going to be Membu or Campbell. After that, all those offensive linemen, I let somebody else take a chance on Kelvin Banks. I wasn't exactly, enthralled with him. I'm not the biggest O-line enthusiast or anything like that, but I feel like it's fine. Again, if I had to make a prediction for this Colts pick, though, I don't see how Tyler Warren escapes them right here at 14. I really just don't. So if that happens, again, the board is falling in a certain way that, 15 might go, Will Johnson, 16 could be Will Johnson. One of those two guys could be there. But again, the 49ers will have a look at another defensive lineman. It's just all about being aggressive. And if they were looking to move up in this first round, you can bet that they're going to be looking up again in the second round. And that should be exciting. So tomorrow's going to be a really exciting day, maybe even today. Let's see what happens.
Well, Jay, thank you so much for hopping in. We appreciate it. You can follow Jay on X at Jason Aponte 2103. Got a YouTube channel as well. Go subscribe. I promise.
Congrats, Johnny. Welcome to the team, gang.
Hey, thank you so much, Jay.
So, all right, Johnny, you got film on Mykel Williams. Make us feel even better, please.
All right. So hopefully I don't have any technical difficulties here.
Oh, I see it there. I might have to add it to the stage.
All right. So here we go. Mykel Williams. He's number 13. He's on the edge. This is against Texas. Okay. So this was for the SEC championship. What they're going to do is they're going to try and fake a run here. They're going to pull a guard to come and kick him out and go play action pass. So what I want you to see is the violence off the edge, the length in the arms, and the power. So he's going to meet this tackle or guard. Sorry, my mouse just froze up. of all things to freeze up, my mouse froze up. Let's get it back here. Watch the length, okay? The length to get guys off of you and the power. That's a pulling guard that's meeting him. He sets the edge, lifts him off the ground, gets it off there, and then sheds it and goes, and he forces a horrible throw from the quarterback in crunch time in this game, okay? So he's got the burst there. Then you say, okay, they can line him up in multiple positions, and he's strong. So they're going to line him up at a 5 technique here, really kind of a 4-eye over the tackle. And Texas is they're trying to get him pushed out of this hole and this running back right up in that lane. So watch what he does here. He's going to sink his hips, use that leverage, stand this tackle up, and there's nowhere for the running back to go in that run lane. Okay, this is a defensive end that can stand up against a tackle in the run game. Here, they're going to run a little stunt with him. He has the athleticism to do it. Texas picks it up pretty well. I was actually using this clip for a different player, but it was in my reel here. But now we get back to him. Okay, he's now over the guard. You're going to see now the ability, again, to rush the passer. Relentless motor. That's the one thing that I have on him, is that he's got a relentless motor in the pass rush. So he's going to have to fight through 2 guys to get to this pass rush. So first he takes on the guard, then he takes on the center. He shakes both of them, and then he's still running the quarterback down, flushes him out for another incomplete pass. Okay? So we're seeing that relentless motor. They're going to try and come with a run now. This is a run version of the play action we saw. They're going to pull this guard, try and kick him out. Watch the reaction. He's going to read it, and then he's going to close the space. He doesn't wait for the guard to come to him. He goes and he initiates contact with the guard, stands him up, pow. Okay, the only reason this running back gets anything is he makes an incredible jump cut. He still doesn't get much because he has to run outside of his blocking, but he has nowhere to go because Mykel Williams set the edge in the run. So you're seeing that he's a great run player. Here, the tackle's now going to try. He's on the right side. He's right here. He's going to try the tackle's trying to scoop him. So he's trying to seal him off, and they're going to try and run outside. Okay, here he's going to see it. He's going to understand these guys are trying to seal him off, and he's going to keep the edge and let Jalen Walker fill. So Jalen Walker gets the tackle. He's going to set the edge. Now, he did get pancaked a little bit, but again, he kept his run fit, and he ended up on top. So
what you're telling me,
I really like it.
As this commenter says, he's better than Yetur Gross-Matos.
Yeah. I mean, he brings it, and Leonard Floyd was a big liability in the run game. So this immediately means you now have accordion bookends on each side. Your edges are not going to get pushed wide and exposed. That was something that hurt our tackles during the season last year, is that the edges weren't getting compressed enough. They're playing in more space. Fred Warner's playing in more space. That leads to a lot of missed tackles in the middle. That leads to a lot of open run lanes in the middle. You are now accordioning, if that's even a word, the edges, shrinking those edges and making offenses play in a tighter space. You're making them play in a phone book, and that now sets up for, you can go get a Darius Alexander, you can go get a Collins, you can go get a TJ, I forget his last name, from South Carolina. You can go get a number of guys. I'm really high on Jamari Caldwell out of Oregon. I think all those guys are going to be there. You can get a Deion Walker, you can get a Cam Jackson, these big space eaters that are 340 plus. That now you compare that, you clog up that line, and you really help your linebackers, your safeties, everything. So I really like this pick. And he was third on the team in sacks, but the guy that was tied for first ahead of him, it was Chambis. He was, to me, like their fourth best edge player. He got a lot of cleanup sacks because Williams and Walker were creating so much havoc. I love this pick.
And Manny R, sorry, Levin, I didn't mean to cut you off. Manny R says, talking like this is a guarantee. Yeah, obviously we don't know how good these guys are going to be, of course. But dude, if I can't be happy tonight, then I can never be happy. Like, let me have tonight.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Johnny, it's nice to finally actually talk to you. I don't know if you're aware, but I believe you're the same Johnny Dell that 8-9 years ago we would have conversations on 49ers Web Zone.
I am.
Message board, yeah. was going to say back in the day before I started writing for them and all that, we sometimes agreed. We sometimes didn't agree. But yeah, I've followed your stuff and watched your videos for almost a decade now. And this is the first time we have talked. So first, welcome. Second, my condolences for joining us.
Oh, don't do that.
You're stuck
Wow.
now. You put your name to the paper, you know?
That's true. It's official. The paperwork is in. Nick Wagner of ESPN tweeted, Mykel Williams lined up all over the place at Georgia, but he did get some experience as a 9 technique, which should help him transition to San Francisco. He was 30% of his defensive snaps were at 4-eye, 22% at the 9 technique, 17% at outside linebacker, 6% at 3 technique. Johnny, can you help break that down for people that don't know what the hell any of that means?
Yeah, so 4-eye, it's what I showed there earlier, lining up head up inside on the inside shoulder of the tackle. That's a tough position. That's usually what we saw from like Eric Armstead, from DeForest Buckner when they were in the 3-4, right? They're playing 5 or 4-eye, where you have to take on that tackle and you have to, one, also set the edge with them and take the inside. Like it's tough work in there. You usually see guys who are 290 playing 5 and 4-eye. He's bigger than that. That's Justin Smith, for old Cowboy, if a lot of people remember that. Like he was that kind of defensive end position. But so Williams there, that means he's got lots of power, able to hold up against those tackles and guards in the run game. 9 technique, that's going to be that wide pass rushing set that we have. Outside linebacker is going to be more like a 7 tech. It's going to be lining up over the tight end. So, what you're seeing from him, you can't block him with a tight end. It's going to be hard with the tackle, hard with the guard. So he's just a tough guy to move and get out of the way, and sets the edge in the run game, which is number one. You have to do that to earn the right to rush the passer. And so that's the biggest thing I wanted to see them do in this draft, because we were so bad against the run last year, is I wanted to see a good run defender there more than anything that has upside for a pass rusher. He's got the athleticism to do the stunts and twists that we're going to do. I don't think we're going to ask him to line up and be a Nick Bosa and win by being just so awesome all the time. They're going to allow him to do stunts and twists. That's what they did with Leonard Floyd, and Leonard Floyd just had lost the feet to do it really well. I saw him consistently tripping over defensive tackles and their feet and being a little slow on those inside moves. He can do that. I saw it at Georgia. They ran a bajillion stunts and twists. So he's got the pedigree to do that. He's got the mind to do it. They had to learn a lot. And what that multiple positions also mean is he's a smart kid, because he had to learn a lot of different pressure pass, a lot of different rush pass. And so he's already shown that he can absorb that and execute it on the field, which is a big, big selling point coming to our system.
San Mateo says quarterbacks are going to run from Bosa into Mykel Williams. That's the
Drake
goal.
Jackson special.
Right. But except no one else could do it. I mean, Drake had those 3 sacks in that one game, and that was pretty much it. David Lombardi tweets out, Mykel Williams has 34 3/8 inch arms. That's longer than Shamar Stewart. The Niners love that in their in-line players. He fits the prototypical mold of the modern 3-down NFL edge rusher, which is one of the most coveted positions in the game, hence the 11th pick. Admittedly, David Lombardi was never going to say anything bad about anybody the 49ers picked in this spot. Like, let's just be real. But again,
it's true.
If we can't be happy tonight, then we can't be happy at all. So I'm going to go with the hopium. I'm going to assume that this is a good pick. Again, he was the guy I wanted. So the 49ers picked the guy I wanted. Certainly, I'm going to be happy about that. And I think it was, again, we talked about this before you hopped in, Johnny. Like, they just didn't do the stupid thing. They didn't screw around.
Mm-hmm.
Pick was in. It was the Bears, Colston Loveland, and then it was boom, Niners pick is in. That means that there was
consensus
in the draft room by the 49ers, no screwing around, and they got this thing done right quick and in a hurry.
Yeah, and what it showed on the film, like those long arms, you saw it right there on the film, right? It's not just a measurable that's there. You saw him use that and use it to his advantage. That length means a lot as a defensive edge player, especially when you're going against tackles like Kelvin Banks. Kelvin Banks, that was the big plus I saw from him, was his arm length. I was not in love with his movement skills for our scheme, so I was fine with him not being there, but his arm length just shot off the tape. And those were some of the funnest battles. I loved watching Kelvin Banks against Mykel Williams. I watched like 2 hours of it when they had their first game, and that was a wonderful battle because both of those guys were so long. And I will tell you, he beat Kelvin Banks, and you don't see Kelvin Banks get beat in pass rush very much just because of that arm length that Kelvin Banks couldn't use it to his advantage as much. So I love it.
I was going to say, Rob, would you feel nearly as good if they did panic and they did trade up and it's Mykel Williams at like 7 or 8, but they gave up the second round pick to get up there? No, you would probably be like, well, I'm happy they got a guy I wanted, but boy, that was a lot to get there.
Yeah, I mean, the way the board played out, again, we've talked about it. Like, it was perfect for the 49ers. Pretty much any defensive lineman that they could have hoped realistically to get a chance at was there for them. So it's absolutely fantastic. They're going to be, I'm sure, all hugs and hand pounds in the draft room. You know, Mike Tannenbaum told me the most satisfying thing for an NFL GM is after the draft is over, you take the whole like front office and scouts and everybody, you take them all to dinner. And it's like, yeah, you don't know how the picks are going to work out, but like you did so much work and you put everything into it. And you're in the draft room, you're on edge the whole time because you got to be watching the picks and trades and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden the work is done and you're just like, you take a breath and you could just sort of enjoy. And that's what we're going to do tonight. Maybe Mykel Williams stinks. I have no idea, but guess what? Neither do you. Neither does Larry Kruger, who I'm seeing in the chat apparently does not like the pick at all. And that's his right. That's fine. I'm just choosing to go a different route tonight. And there'll be plenty of time to bag on Mykel Williams if he stinks. Trust me. Well,
now, who are you willing to trade up for if it gets to like pick 28, 29?
Yes.
That's what's on my mind now because there's two that jump to mind. You already talked about Nolan before Johnny joined us with Jason and Steph. But I also like if Simmons is still sitting there at like 28 because the injury just teams didn't want to take him. I'm okay taking that gamble and going up and getting at somebody that would have been a top 10 pick if he didn't have that injury.
That's scary to me, Johnny. What do you think?
That's
a patellar injury.
Yeah, so I did a lot of looking into this because I feel like Josh Simmons, as far as movement abilities, really fits the 49ers scheme very, very well. I think he can be a premier tackle in this league and fit the 49ers just really well. We are scared of the patellar tendon because, Weston Richburg, that's what sent him to retirement. Drake Jackson, now it's showing that's what his injury has been, is a patellar tendon. Yep. Now, on the other side of that, I dove into a lot of the data on patellar tendon injuries for athletes and their return to play. It was 78% of all athletes return to play at least to their previous level of performance. It's a little bit lower for NFL players. I think it was reviewed 86 players, I believe, that had patellar tendons, and 76% returned to play at least at the previous level, and it shortened careers by 4.1 months. So, only one out of every 4 that has this injury cannot return to play at least at the previous level. We've already had 2 of those. Everything that we've seen from Josh Simmons's medicals is that he is ahead of schedule. He was just squatting 225, which where he's at for his patellar is ahead of schedule. That's showing good prospects. So, I don't know if the 49ers PTSD of patellars says, no, he's not on our board. Or do you say we're going to go with the likelihood and the data and the probabilities, and most likely he's going, the chances are more overwhelming that we're going to have a player that is just fine on the other side of this. And if so, then you do get a premier, I think, a top 15 talent in this draft for not top 15 draft capital.
I'm seeing some rumors online about the Arizona Cardinals and who they have picked. We don't want to spoil it here, but if it's accurate, that would certainly change things for the 49ers. I just saw
Goodell at the podium about to announce it. I don't know where ESPN's at with it. But I did see that the moment they got on the clock, they were on the phone with the guy already. Yeah. So it's somebody they wanted right away. They took Walter Nolan. He's off the board.
That pipe dream is dead. But I mean, look, that would have been the ideal of the ideal. Good for the Cardinals. We'll have to contend with Walter Nolan now in the NFC West twice a year. The 49ers do have some experience handling a premier defensive tackle. Aaron Donald was there for a while, so hopefully that can give you some
Get
some
Brunskill back.
And look, we can talk about some of the other picks that are coming off the board in a minute, but I want to, this is a Niners show, so let's focus on the Niners pick. Apparently on the Pat McAfee show, Peter Schrager said Robert Saleh had a big voice in ranking the defensive lineman, and Robert Saleh loved this dude. Makes sense since we saw Jed York immediately tweet about Robert Saleh being back in the building and how the pick was made. So look, when you're paying Robert Saleh all this money and you're bringing him in to resurrect your defense, you got to let him. What did Bill Parcells say? If you're going to have me cook the meal, you might as well let me shop for the groceries. And apparently, Levin, they let Saleh shop for the groceries.
I'm totally fine with it. It makes sense that Saleh would love him. As Johnny said, one of the big things he had was a great motor, and that's definitely a Saleh thing that he values highly. And I agree. That is something that I think is near the top of my list for edge rushers and defensive linemen in particular. They got to be somebody that's just relentless. They don't give up, because there's a lot of plays from the defensive line where your first move doesn't work and you get stopped, but then the play comes to you and you still have an opportunity to make a play. And it's the guys that don't give up that make those plays.
And look, remember in the NFC Championship game when we were talking about 49ers defensive line not hustling, not selling out? Like, that was a thing that I literally asked Steve Wilkes about when we were on the field at the Super Bowl in Las Vegas. We don't want to have that. And part of this draft, Johnny, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, but part of this draft is about rebuilding the culture in the locker room. And we've had a lot of guys leave. Dre Greenlaw especially was a fiery, passionate, crazy guy. You've got to fortify that culture that you love that was so strong for this team for a long time. You need to rebuild that. And it sounds like maybe that might have been part of the thinking with Mykel Williams as well.
Yeah, I mean, all gas, no brakes, and that's Mykel Williams. I mean, for what it's worth, I hopped on with a bunch of other content creators. We did a Zoom meeting, and we did a full first 3-round mocks. Everybody picking for their teams, and what I did in those first 3 rounds is my number 1 pick at 11 was Mykel Williams. That's who I picked in that mock draft because the way it worked out. I went Darius Alexander in the second. I went Olufemi Oladejo in the third, and then Jackson Slater at the end of the third. Because I think you can. I was thinking you could still get Jamari Caldwell there at the early 4th, and that changes your trenches on both sides. You get a rotational kid that can come in and be that NASCAR package role defensive end in Femi Oladejo that's super athletic. You get the run defender in Mykel Williams, who also has high upside as a pass rusher. Darius Alexander's a kid I absolutely love. I would love to see him go to the 49ers in the second. And then Jackson Slater, I think, is Gray Zabel 2.0. That is going to be there in the 4th, was super impressive. Over 30 reps on the bench, over 30 score on the Wonderlic score. His relative athletic score is something like 136 out of 1,400 interior offensive linemen that have been graded by that over the last 30 years. One of the most athletic linemen. He's a converted tackle from Sacramento State, so he's a small school kid, but he showed up at the Senior Bowl and was darn near almost identical to Gray Zabel at the Senior Bowl. And so he did not lose to Walter Nolan once at the Senior Bowl. And so he's somebody that's going to be there. So I think they have an ability. Like, I love how this sets up. This sets up an ability to, and like I'm saying, Jackson Slater is probably going to play center or guard for us. I would love to see him get plugged in at center so we don't have that, because Walter Nolan did not beat Jackson Slater. So I would love how that, if the draft falls the way it's going, and so far the first piece is there.
So RSF 49ers tweeted out Walter Nolan versus Jake Brendel twice a year with a scared emoji face. Yeah, that could be scary if Walter Nolan is as good as people think. Look, we can only take one player, right? Other good players are going to fall to other teams. You have to manage that, and we'll see ultimately what happens, but they will be linked forever now. It's going to be Mykel Williams. It's going to be Walter Nolan. Just like, Tristan Wirfs is linked with Javon Kinlaw, because that was the guy that they could have picked if they didn't pick Kinlaw. They're linked forever now, and they're going to get to, literally square off against each other twice a year. Could be great for the 49ers. could be a little scary. Right now, tonight, Levin, I'm choosing to hopefully think it's going to be great.
I could have gone forever without any more Jake Brindle mention.
Yeah.
That is not a name I expected to see nor hear tonight, and it just ruined the mood. So thank you for putting that tweet up and ruining the mood. No, look, we got a long way to go until this first round is over. The Niners have traded back into the first round multiple times with this regime.
Mm-hmm.
So with the way this draft is falling right now, I think it's becoming more and more likely that they're going to look to get back into the first round.
You know, we talked about the Jed York tweet about Robert Saleh. The Niners just posted a picture of Robert Saleh with the Jed York tweet in it and says, Saleh getting back to work. I know you can't read it, but I wanted to zoom out so you could see the full picture. Robert Saleh is getting a lot of love tonight.
Did you see the seating arrangement when they showed the 49ers draft room?
No, I didn't see it. What was it?
So you had Jed York standing behind John Lynch. And then on John Lynch's left was Kyle Shanahan, who was on the phone. And directly to his right was Robert Saleh. So it was those three were the clear, like, these are the three guys making decisions tonight.
That's interesting. And look, like we said, you brought Robert Saleh in for a reason. So I just think it's interesting that he's getting so much public love from the organization. Maybe they're trying to coax him into staying more than 1 year.
It could be. It could also be something that they just, if you remember, like, they took forever to get to the point of actually announcing it was Saleh, to the point every other possible hire was already announced and gone. So what if it took that long because Saleh said, I will come back, but I need certain guarantees. And some of those guarantees were, I want decision-making. And it took a while to work that out and get it put into the contract that, yes, he gets, maybe Saleh has final say on any defensive player that's drafted. Like, he gets to say, no, we're not drafting that guy. Or, yes, if we're drafting defense, that is the guy that's at the top.
It's absolutely possible. That is definitely certainly something that could be a possibility. Speaking of possibilities, it's possible Johnny Dell has to run to put the kiddos to bed. I do appreciate you hopping in, Johnny. Again, I'm so thrilled that you're going to be joining the team, that you are joining the team. We're going to do our show every Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific time. We're going to do film breakdown every single week for you. I'm so excited. Thank you so much. Everybody subscribe to the Johnny Dale Football Academy on YouTube as well. But thank you again, and I look forward to doing many more shows with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the gracious invite. I am looking forward to this season. It's always fun. I love talking 49ers football. As Levin knows, I love to give it back and forth, and we can be spicy about it. But the thing that people always tend to misunderstand and why I love being in person about it is I'm generally a positive person and a happy person. And I don't mean anything in ill faith usually. And I say usually, but because I won't say I'm that way 100%, but I try and be have some levity to it. And I just appreciate being able to be here and talk 49ers with some smart people. And you guys are some smart people. So thank you for bringing me on. I'm going to go put some kiddos to bed.
All right. Thank you, Johnny. Don't say nice things about Levin now that you're part of the same team. Continue being mean to him. But anyway, thank you.
It was good meeting you.
So that's Johnny Dell. Very, very excited about that. There's 2,600 people watching right now. I could not be more excited. Thank you. If this is your first time checking us out here at the Gold Standard 49ers Podcast Network, please like and subscribe to the channel. I promise you, we won't let you down. We're live every single weekday. We do news updates every weekday. We have a full menu of 49ers food. I like to call it a 49ers buffet here. If you don't like the chicken, try the fish. If you don't like me, there's a show that doesn't have me on it at all. Like, please give us a chance. I promise you it's the best, most objective 49ers coverage anywhere, except when Levin's on.
I think it's probably the most objective when I'm on.
So we have missed a couple of picks here, and we can get back to talking about Mykel Williams. Tyler Booker, the guard, went to the Cowboys at 12. Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle, went to Miami at 13. Ty Warren went to the Colts at 14, the tight end out of Penn State. Jalen Walker went to Atlanta. Atlanta, things got dicey. They went like all the way down on the clock before they made their pick. I thought maybe there might be a trade. Walter Nolan, as we said, went to the Cardinals at 16. And Shamar Stewart is off the board. He went to Cincinnati at 17. That doesn't shock me. They never shy away from rolling the dice on guys.
No, and I mean at this point at 17, it's not a terrible pick either. You get to where the Niners were, yeah, there's too many other guys, but you get down into the second half now of the first round, you can take a gamble on a guy that has extreme upside, but pretty much zero production in college. But I do want to address Sign Me Too out there. I see your comments. I'm actually not medicated today. Today is the way it works is when I feel myself rebound and I'm starting to get better, I stop taking meds so that I can know when I'm truly better. Plus, there is something to be said. If you keep taking meds, sometimes they actually work against you because your body learns, oh, I don't need to take care of that. And it takes you longer to recover. So today is the first day I haven't been taking any cold meds or flu meds or any of that.
Well, I'm glad you're bouncing back. Let's see if I did the smart thing and starred the comment that I wanted to talk about. Nope, I didn't. I apologize. I forget who said it. I'll look for it in a second. But Donald Campbell says, first time with you guys. Love the show. Honestly, glad Grant is gone. If it's your first time with us, how do you know? Anyway, well, thank you, Donald. I really appreciate it. Hopefully we continue to earn your time. I think that we will. Ricardo says, saludos from Panama. Pumped for the picks, Williams and Johnny. It's going to be a good year. I love when we go international. That is so cool to me that people could be in a completely different country and following the Niners. Thank you and welcome.
Yeah, I would speak Spanish, but I can't.
Thank God. I don't want to see you try is what I mean by that. If you can't do
rolling R's is like impossible. I tried to do that. Could not do it. I did take, I've taken 3 years of Spanish in my school career.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing I ever learned how to say was, can I go to the bathroom so that I could leave class for 20 minutes and then just come back? I never actually went to the bathroom.
Aha. Here is the comment that I wanted to get to as I completely skipped by that. Nick Eller, YouTube channel member. Shout out to all our YouTube channel members. If you want to become one, it's less than $3 a month. Get custom emojis, membership badges, and priority comment response. Nick says, Matt Mayoko said he thought the Niners would trade up to get 2 second-round picks.
I think it means trade down.
Yeah, I think so. And they still can. Well, they can't trade down, but they could trade up to get 2 second-round picks. We'll see what ultimately they decide to do. I'm wondering, like, could they sneak back into the end of round 1? Like you talked about.
I think it's absolutely possible. I think especially if an offensive tackle slips. I don't know that they'll do it for a second defensive lineman, but absolutely could happen to get an offensive tackle. But it will be interesting to see if one of the storylines, and I'm not talking so much about tonight, but in the next couple days of the draft, if the storyline is teams were like unwilling to trade out of their current slot because this draft is so deep, they weren't interested in future picks. Because like usually you'd see like, say the Niners want to trade from 43 up to 33, in the second round. They would trade that second round pick, a 4th round pick this year, and then a 3rd round pick next year. What if teams say, no, if you're wanting up, you got to do a 2nd and a 3rd this year. We're not interested in next year picks. This draft is too deep.
Yeah, it's possible. And, the other part of this too, like if the draft is as deep as people say, and you can load up on really good players in round 3 and round 4, or even, the back end of round 2, then you get really good players for really cheap for 4 years. And that's kind of what happened to the 49ers, right? Deebo Samuel, not a 1st round pick. Fred Warner, not a 1st round pick. George Kittle, not a 1st round pick. Dre Greenlaw, 5th round pick. You got stud players that were totally outperforming their contract. Brock Purdy, the biggest one out of all of them, right? And you didn't have to pay those prices. So that is huge for teams. Yes, you want to get good players. But if you can get good, cheap players for almost half a decade, that is the ultimate formula. So what you're saying makes a lot of sense.
And that brings up a strategy. And I would assume there's at least one team out there that's had this exact conversation. Do you take your later round picks, your 5th, your 6th, your 7th this year, along with some of your picks for next year, and use those to get more 2nd and 3rd and 4th this year to like really push your chips into this draft because it's seen as, I wouldn't necessarily go historically deep, but a very deep draft, like a once every 10 years or so deep draft, especially at the lines on both sides. So that's a strategy that I think a couple teams are probably looking at. The problem is, like I said, there might be a lot of teams that are saying, that aren't necessarily trying to trade up and do that thing, but where they're at, they're saying, no, I'm not interested. I'm not trading down. I'm staying put.
It's possible. And maybe you're willing to overpay for some of those second and third round picks, like you talked about, because of the strength of the draft. I wouldn't put it past them. And I certainly wouldn't put it past the 49ers. Rachel Kershaw says 3 a.m. in the UK. How am I still awake? It's unbelievable. Worth staying up for this show every time. Thank you so much, Rachel. Really, the most valuable thing that you can give us is your time. And the fact that you are also putting off sleep is incredible. Thank you so much. Dave Mills also up at 3 a.m. in the UK. That is absolutely fantastic. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate the support. Sean says 10 p.m. in 10 p.m. in NH. What's NH?
New Hampshire, I would think.
Is it? Oh, yeah.
It's 10 p.m. here. So
sorry, I just looked at the clock. It's 10 p.m. Yeah, New Hampshire. My girlfriend's family lives in England. All right. Well, appreciate everybody staying up late. Obviously, I'm on the East Coast.
Can I just say this draft has slowed down? The Niners picked when we were at the 1 hour and 13-minute mark. Now, the draft didn't start until about 10 minutes in for us. So in pretty much 1 hour, we got through 11 picks. It has now been an hour since that point, and we've gotten 7 announced. So it's slowing down.
I believe the Seattle Seahawks have taken Gray Zabel. So another guy that the 49ers, had some potential interest in or were rumored is going to be in the NFC West now. Gray Zabel could be facing off against Mykel Williams potentially if they move Mykel inside on certain plays. So that's going to be a thing that happens.
I will be interested to see how they utilize Mykel Williams. Do they just tell him you're going to be an edge, concentrate on that? Or do they try to develop the ability to go inside and outside like an Eric Armstead, where they truly do shift him around based on need and rotation and all that?
He did shift inside quite a bit at Georgia. That's one of the things Dieter told me was part of the reason his sack total was low, is because they were putting him in the middle because they knew he could hold his ground, which he did, which is great. But, that it's harder to get sacks rushing from the interior, as everybody knows. My thing with draft picks, my philosophy has always been, don't ask them to change. Just let them do the things that they are good at. Why are you shaking your head? What are you making a face?
The Deion Sanders stuff is starting. They just showed his son, and now the NFL Network has a tweet up from Deion Sanders from earlier in the day saying the rejected will be respected. So they must have known or been hearing that he was not going to go very early for Deion to tweet that earlier today.
Hey, Deion, just shut up. How about that? Let your kid have his moment.
That's why his kid is going later than he deserves.
Could be. Adam K says, I hate our pick. We lost the Super Bowl on Purdy's final pass. Jennings was wide open and the offensive line broke down. That moment will stick with me forever. I understand that thinking, Adam. I really do. 2 things I want to say. One, remember, Spencer Burford admitted he went rogue. He did not do what he was supposed to do on the play. So it wasn't like he got beat because he wasn't good enough, and maybe he still would have, but he didn't do the thing he was supposed to do. So that's part of it. And number 2, there's nothing we can do to change what happened in the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, it will forever hurt us. You could draft 10,000 offensive linemen. You could draft 5 more Trent Williams. It won't change what happened in the past. I know it sucks. I still feel that pain. I watch the damn Super Bowl highlights once a week. Okay. I'm there with you. So you can only make one pick. Don't judge a whole draft by what happened tonight. Whether you like Mykel Williams or whether you don't like Mykel Williams, they've still got 10 picks right now. We are going to see you will feel completely different about the 49ers at the end of the weekend than you feel right now. So I get it. Your guy wasn't picked. I totally understand that. But, it's not over yet. There is still plenty of hope, is what I'll say.
Speaking of hope and chaos that you're rooting for.
Yeah.
I'm kind of rooting for that chaos, honestly. It would be fun as somebody that lives in Pittsburgh to see the Deion and the Sanders whole saga being here, because that is so anti the Pittsburgh Steelers way. The Steelers are all about don't make it about you. Now, saying that, they have a clear history of if you're a certain type of quarterback, you can make it about you and they won't care. So I think it falls on a little bit of deaf ears to me now after their last franchise quarterback and how they treated it. But I would be, just as somebody that lives in Pittsburgh, I would love to be able to watch that over watching the Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Do you know how Michelle feels about it, though? Wedge Antilles asked, how does Michelle feel about Sanders to the Steelers?
Honestly, at this point, I can't remember. Everybody's draft opinions are jumbled in my head. I know she doesn't want to see, what's his name there? Not Mason Graham.
Rodgers.
No, their guy that they got. I can't remember. The dude that got hit in the head in the helmet, but he just
Mason Rudolph.
Yeah, Mason Rudolph. She doesn't want to see that. She wants to see something exciting at quarterback for the Steelers because they haven't had it since Ben. We'll see ultimately what happens. More international people in the chat. I'm sorry, I apologize. I don't know how to say your name. Sparthier Kiwi Warrior says 2 p.m. here in New Zealand. That's absolutely fantastic. Benjamin's watching from Greenland. Leo says cheers from Brazil. That is awesome. Thank you, everybody. International flavor on the show tonight. I absolutely love it.
A lot of different flavor, too. A lot of different countries.
Yeah, I love it. The more the merrier, right? That's absolutely how I feel. We've had a couple more picks. Tampa Bay just went with Emeka Egbuka, the wide receiver from Ohio State. Look,
it's surprising to go wide receiver.
Well, Mike Evans is not going to play forever. I love Mike Evans.
They just paid Godwin too.
I think the feeling is you've got to put as many good people around Baker as possible, quite frankly. And, I totally get it. What are they going to say? Oh, we have too many wide receivers. Like, you never have enough.
It was the Dolphins were the team that I was wondering if they were going to, I'm going to say it, pivot to a wide receiver because there's no guarantee Tyreek Hill is allowed to play.
Well, yeah, that is a scary situation too. And again, like I said, there's other picks in the draft, so we'll see. I'm sure they could find that as a priority later on. But he goes to Tampa Bay. Now Denver is up at number 20. They've still got, looks like, around 3 minutes left to go on the clock. Robert, YouTube channel member, says, greetings from Mexico, daily listener and YouTube channel member. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. A lot of our listeners do live in Mexico and listen from Mexico, so I always appreciate that. Bleeze Entertainment, maybe I'm going to go with, says Emeka is a definite replacement for Mike Evans. They just re-signed Mike Evans, if I remember correctly, though, didn't they? Yeah. So, but
I think it was only it was either 2 or 3 years. It wasn't long.
But if like I said with Mason Graham and Myles Garrett in Cleveland, just have Emeka follow Mike Evans. Whatever Mike Evans does, get on his training program, get on his diet, get on his, practice habits. Whatever Mike Evans does, that's what you got to do, because all Mike Evans does is catch 1,000 yards every year and 10 touchdowns.
And that's exactly what they should be telling Mykel Williams to do with Nick Bosa. Hey, go spend an offseason with Nick Bosa. Learn technique, because that's what, it was mentioned in the draft guide. It was mentioned by Johnny that his technique is a little rough. He doesn't have a diverse moves. He basically has one move. So go spend Nick. Who knows more technique than Nick Bosa? Nobody.
That's what he's absolutely known for. Apparently, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are kicking off their day one press conference. So that probably means the 49ers are not trading back up into round one. I would imagine.
That's really, they've never done that before.
Yeah, to do it this early is, we're at pick 20. There's still 12 picks left in the first round. So I got to think that means that they're done. You can't just take off in the middle of the draft. I'm surprised that they're doing it now, to be honest with you.
It's really shocking because you don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
But that must mean, for them to do that, that means to me one thing. It's not that they're unwilling to trade up, because you don't know who's going to be there and what the price will be until, even if they got a guy, he's 25th on our board and he's there at 32, you might make the call and they say, yeah, give us a 5th round pick in addition to your second. You know what I mean? The price could be so low that, okay, we're going to go ahead and do it then. It means that there is nobody that they deem truly first round talent left.
Well, remember, John Lynch in his pre-draft press conference said we have 20 guys with first round grades. Well, we're at pick 20. Now, maybe it just so happens that every single guy picked happened to be one of those 20. And so they're like, all right, we're not going we're not going to expend resources to get a guy that we don't think lives up to that. I have no idea. We'll have to see what John and Lynch say. Heineman on Twitch says Jed's running the phones at the draft. Yeah, Jed's in control.
Yeah, Jed is hanging up saying, "Oh, first round picks cost more to sign the first contract." No, we're not interested.
Please says hopefully they make a pick while Kyle is gone.
That when the third round is happening, hopefully that's when Kyle needs like a bathroom break. Hey, Kyle, third round's coming up. Go ahead and leave the room, please.
Nick Ellert says the word from I assume as Matt Mayoko, 43 was defensive tackle, trade up to late second for a tackle. Okay, we'll see what ultimately ends up happening. Park Baby LA says, what do you guys rate the 49ers draft pick on a 1 to 10 score? It's tough to know right now.
Well, yeah, but this is without hindsight. This is based on what happened. To me, I would put it like 7 or 8. I think to get a 10, it's wow, that would be Mason Graham, somebody that you wanted, that should have gone top 5, and for some reason was still sitting there at 11 for you. You don't always have that option. I think with the way things went this year, this is probably the best pick they could make, but that doesn't mean it's a 10.
I'm interested. I'm just seeing a tweet from Kyle Posey, who of course runs NinersNation.com, my old boss, you could say, kind of. Tweets, drafting Mykel Williams is like nailing your drive off the tee down the fairway. You're never going to be mad at the outcome. High floor, top run defender, stupid strong, crazy discipline. Had him 15th overall because of a lack of pass rush. My comp was Eric Armstead-ish. Then he said, you don't have to teach Williams how to play football. That's one of his best traits. He understands the assignment. You can't say that for some of the other top prospects in this class. The learning curve shouldn't be steep. If Kasarik is who we think he is. And that's another part of this, Levin. But I love that. Like that, what he said about like, you don't have to teach him how to play football. Like, yes, please get guys in, because that tells me he's going to be able to come in and contribute something right away. And this team desperately needs it, especially at that position.
Yeah. And I don't think they need a sack artist over there either. They need somebody that holds their ground, doesn't get undisciplined, which Nick Bosa has been getting more and more guilty of. I think Nick Bosa the last 2 years has felt the need to be crazy spectacular. Mm-hmm. So he's been doing undisciplined things like rolling to the inside to try to beat his man when he needs to set the edge. And then he gets beat because they go past him on the edge. But if he can just set the edge and then have his tackle going backwards to slowly collapse the pocket, that's all. I don't need sacks. I need somebody that's not going to let the run get outside of him, and somebody that's going to consistently push that pocket and make it smaller and smaller so that there's no escape for the quarterback. Because if Nick Bosa is coming on the other edge and you got the other edge getting pushed back into the quarterback, he can't get outside. So your scramblers are going to have to go up the middle, and that's going to be a lot harder to consistently be able to scramble and get away from.
100% agree. Anytime you can shorten Nick Bosa's path to the quarterback, I'm for it. I totally agree on the discipline thing. I think that he was trying to do too much because he knew, man. We all knew. These games are on TV. We could see it was ugly on the defensive line. And speaking of Nick Bosa, he is the only Niners defensive lineman with more than 4.5 sacks in any NFL season. In fact, he has more sacks and quarterback hits than the other 11 defensive linemen on the roster combined. And remember, Nick Bosa didn't have any sacks in 2020 because he got hurt. So that tells you the state of the defensive line in San Francisco.
Yeah, it's not good. And that's why there's a lot of talk about how they're going defensive line with their first 2 picks. It's because they have massive problems on that defensive line. And if you solve those, as I was talking about earlier, if your defensive line is able to stop the run and get after the quarterback, the rest of the defense will take care of itself. You don't need stars on the rest of the defense, yet you still have one in Fred Warner, and you still have a really good corner in Lenore out there. So you're going to be able to make up for at this point, it's going to be another really shaky year as the second linebacker. I mean, they've done nothing to address it, and unless they get a miracle in the draft, somebody that can start right away, like a Fred Warner, who came in and what was it, second week, he was given the headset to make the calls as a third round pick. So unless you get that later in the draft, they're going to have problems at the second linebacker. But if that defensive line is dominating, it won't matter nearly as much as we saw this last year, where the second linebacker was constantly getting picked on.
Their plan is always, excuse me, 2.5 hours in, I'm losing my voice a little, always to build from the defensive line and have the defensive line take the pressure off of the other two levels of the defense. Brian Kilpatrick, shout out to you. I'll give you another fist pump, new YouTube channel member. Appreciate it. If you want to become one, it's less than $3 a month, as I said before. Heineman on Twitch points out the Broncos got Jade Barron, so they go corner. Potentially,
Goodell is walking to the stage on my screen to announce the Steelers pick, so we're about to see if it's Sanders. They have not shown Sanders or anything to tip this pick, so I have no idea.
I like Denver going corner, like investing in a division with Patrick Mahomes and a division with Justin Herbert. You got to have your corners, man, and they are loading up in Denver. I absolutely love it.
One of the guys that there were some rumors that the Niners were interested in because of their close relationship with Oregon. Derek Harmon, defensive tackle, just went.
Oh, so they still don't go quarterback. Pittsburgh makes a Pittsburgh decision, right? And I think Harmon was a good pick. He was a guy I would have liked for the 49ers, especially if some defensive linemen had gone off the board and they ended up with him. I would not have been upset about that at all.
We're entering, I would say, like Aaron Rodgers-esque type draft when it comes to second quarterback. Sanders at the beginning of draft season was considered possible for number one pick. Became pretty clear, a month and a half ago that he was not going to be the number one pick, and then it became a question. Mm-hmm. But like most people thought he was going top 10 until very, very recently. And now we're in the 20s and teams are still passing on him. So what was Aaron Rodgers, 26th?
He went from, I think.
Okay. He went from potential number one pick, the 49ers chose Alex Smith, to going all the way to 24. So it's going to be interesting to see. You got Chargers, Packers, Vikings, and Texans. None of those are particularly needy at quarterback. So we might have a trade up coming for Sanders.
John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have started speaking. John Lynch said the Niners tried to trade up for Mykel Williams, but it didn't work, but they landed him anyway. I don't know why they would have tried to, unless they just loved him so much. With the way the board fell, to me, there was no reason to try and trade up. I'm glad it ultimately didn't work out because I don't think that would have been a wise decision. And sometimes that happens too, right? Like sometimes you want to make a bad decision, but circumstances prevent you from doing it.
Right. I mean, they might have had him in their top three.
Right.
That's very possible. As you said, Dieter had him number one on his big board. He is one of those guys that if he can figure out a pass rush, even if it's just the bull rush because he's so strong, he suddenly becomes a guy that should have been right there with Abdul Carter because he's so good at holding his ground and being a run stopper. So maybe they see that it's easy to give him a pass rush move that's going to work. But if they had traded up, I don't care what they would have given. I would not have, I would have been and I would have been kind of excited because they got the position I wanted and somebody that I do think has a chance. But I would have been disappointed overall. Because even if they were moving, you saw the trade that it took from 5 to 2. Now going say 11 to 8 isn't nearly as big of a
leap
value. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't have to. They wouldn't have had to give up a future first round pick, but I would all but guarantee that number 43 would have had to be included. Right. Maybe another. So Mykel Williams is not somebody I would have been in favor of giving up number 11 and 43 for.
Nick Heller says, well, we thought we could get him at 15, but Jed had a dinner reservation at the French Laundry, so we just drafted him at 11. That's funny. Shout out to you, Nick. I'm seeing this on Twitter. I have not seen it, but it's the moment that Mykel Williams was picked by the 49ers, or at least got word of it. This comes from Drew Pavin, who tweeted it out here. So I'm just going to play this and we can watch it live. All right, that was not really that exciting. Not gonna
No,
lie.
NFL Network showed he already had the hat on, so it'd be after that. But he was
Okay.
sitting on the couch, and when they showed him, he kind of started to get watery eyes, and then he kind of sat back and let out a huge smile, almost like a laugh. So it was like he was so happy and that he was tearing up.
Kyle Shanahan apparently chimed in after Lynch said they considered trading up to get Mykel. Shanahan added, "We had a good idea he was going early." Well, apparently you didn't. Chris Kasarik thinks Mykel Williams was the best edge setter in college football. Like if Mykel Williams is Eric Armstead, Levin, that's a good pick. Hopefully,
That's
he
a
can
really
be
good
more.
pick. That's a home run level pick.
Yeah.
You got a multi-time Pro Bowler. That's all you can ask for. Now, maybe by him saying they had a pretty good idea Mykel Williams is going early, maybe that was the Jags' backup plan at 5.
It could have been.
You know what I mean? Maybe they had
Didn't work
heard
out.
that if the Jags couldn't trade up,
Mhm.
they were going to go Mykel Williams, or that they were super high on Mykel Williams, or they had some intel that the Jacksonville Jaguars, that's who they wanted if they were at 5.
Apparently, John Lynch said on KMBR that the Niners didn't think Mykel Williams would fall to 11, but when he was there was no consideration to trade back, which matches up with how quickly we saw the pick come in, quite frankly. Apparently, also on KMBR, Greg Papa said to Kyle Shanahan, "So, running back in the 3rd or 4th round?" Kyle Shanahan's response was, "Odds are the 3rd." He's trolling us, right?
Right. They better be. I don't want to see a running back drafted. Like, if they take one, 5th, 6th, if they end up getting a 6th round pick, 7th round, I'm not going to care. But if they take one in the top 4, I just don't know what you're doing. Like, you have proven that you can not only find serviceable running backs in the undrafted market, you can find ones that are good enough that you're able to trade when they go get their second contract.
Right.
In Jordan Mason. So, no, there's no you have your top 2 for sure. You probably have your top 3, in all honesty. Go get a couple undrafted free agents and see if one of them pan out. You don't need to draft one.
Use that. That's one of your strengths as this organization, is finding those running backs like that. Use it to your advantage. Other teams might have to spend a pick on a running back. You maybe don't have to while Bobby Turner is still in the building. Use that to your advantage. Shanahan also on KMBR talking about Mykel Williams and comparing Eric Armstead. He said 2 different players, but 2 good players. Comparing him to Armstead, who was a problem on the edge and a problem over guards. He could play over either one depending on how our D-line panned out. So it sounds like they are planning to at least experiment a little bit with moving him inside, which again is something that Dieter Kurtenbach told me that he did successfully at Georgia. And again, this is Georgia. This is not North Dakota State here, right? So, the fact that he was able to hold his own against some of the best competition in college football, even on the inside, is reassuring. I just hope that the state of the 49ers defensive line doesn't force them to keep putting him in the middle. Like, put him on the edge primarily first and foremost, and let him do good things there before you worry about, well, what else can you also do, right? That old Mitch Hedberg line, you're a good cook. Can you farm? No, just let him cook.
Yeah, I don't want to see them stunt his growth by doing to him what they did with some others.
Yes.
Where they keep saying, play this. Oh, wait, that guy got hurt. Go play that now. Let him concentrate on one. Maybe, you can give him some rotation at the defensive tackle position. You can go ahead and do that. But don't make it a back and forth. Don't be like, oh, our defensive tackle got hurt. We're going to make you the defensive tackle now. That would be along the lines of messing around with DJ Reed and Jimmy Ward, of constantly swapping them back and forth to the point that they're not good at either. And once you let them concentrate on one of them, both of them became very good players at the one that they were allowed to concentrate on.
Right. And Jimmy Ward, a couple other guys, let them just do one. It's hard. Football is hard, especially coming from college to the pros. It's hard enough to learn one thing. Don't let me have to do multiple things. It's very, very difficult. Let's see. John Lynch said we got 10 more picks, and he won't be the only D lineman. Okay. I mean, we all kind of knew that, but
right.
There you go, John. Just throw it out there. Good. That's
It's interesting that he said. It's interesting that he's doing the press conference so quickly, and he said we have 10 more picks. Not that as of now we have 10 more picks, because John Lynch is somebody that kind of tips their hand sometimes with the way he includes a word that's like, well, they're at least considering trades. The fact that he said we have 10 more picks and they're doing the press conference so early lends me to believe that they're just going to stand pat and let the draft fall to them and pick their picks.
Sean Merlin says, a Mitch Hedberg reference. Stats, you just gained major points. I love Mitch Hedberg. He was one of my favorite comedians of all time. I went to go see him in a show, and unfortunately he was high on something and he couldn't do his set. And Dave Attell had to come out and do Mitch Hedberg's set. He did his time because he couldn't speak. It was really bad. And I was so upset because I loved Mitch Hedberg dearly. People are saying the Niners stream is down. Did something happen? Did they run back into the draft room and make it sure? Like what? I don't know what is going on.
Sanders to the 49ers. They traded up.
You know what? If that's the worst thing that happens to the 49ers tonight, that's fine.
Jed made a trade while they were doing the press conference.
We joked about that, but you never know. David Lombardi says Georgia assistant and former college head coach Will Muschamp just texted John Lynch and was very bullish about Mykel Williams' toughness. It really resonated in the Georgia locker room. He apparently played this year at an ankle injury that was at 60%. One of the reliable sources that the Niners have is Will Muschamp. He's been with Georgia since 2021. The Niners have certain guys that they really trust. Matt Barrows had a really good article, Levin. I don't know if you saw it a couple of days ago. By the way, thank you, Sean Merlin, for becoming a new YouTube channel member. Barrows had a good article about the Niners draft process and how it works and how they try to interview guys. And in that article, it talks about Will Muschamp as one of the trusted people and sources that they go to for information on these college players, because the whole gist of the article was, how do we get these guys out of BS interview mode and into just learning actually about these guys when they're not putting up a front and they like to talk to college coaches. And Muschamp was one of the coaches. He's at Georgia with Mykel Williams, and they must have got a good report because they took him at 11.
Yeah, I think that's where that was the same article that mentioned the Oregon. There's an Oregon coach. I can't remember if it's the head coach or an assistant coach. For some reason, I'm thinking assistant coach.
It's the head coach, Dan Lanning.
Was it? Okay. But they mentioned that they were really close with him and they value his input a lot, which is one of the reasons why it was rumored that they might be in on Harmon as a defensive tackle. But I think this regime has been around long enough now. I mean, it dawned on me thinking about it in the lead up to this draft this week. I was like, man, we're getting close to having a decade of the same GM and head coach.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty rare.
We kind of know their MO. We have a pretty good idea of what they like to do, what they don't like to do, who they want to talk to, who they don't want to talk to, things like that. Like this draft went as we expected. They had a guy they really liked. They tried to trade up for him. We know that if there's a guy that they have a consensus on, they will try to trade up and get him.
Absolutely. They've done it in the past multiple times. And fortunately, this time they didn't have to. I'm trying to see, did they get the stream back up or what exactly happened there? I'm not seeing any new comments specifically. So maybe the stream just went down and never came back up again. Just to recap.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Recap. I was going to say, let me take the opportunity. No stream. The draft's kind of bogging down a little bit. Next year's draft is in Pittsburgh. I have been debating, should I go? Should I request a media pass through the Gold Standard, see if I get approved? It'd be kind of cool to cover a draft. But looking at this draft and, previous drafts like the Tennessee draft, stuff like that, I know Pittsburgh quite well at this point, living here 5+ years. Where they were going to host that draft, I don't see it going well. They're hosting it in Point State Park, which is the point downtown where the two rivers come together to form the Ohio River, which is why it's three rivers. That is downtown, and because it's two rivers on one side and another river, it's a point, and that means like everybody's going to be stuck there. There is a park there. There used to be a fort there. It is kind of a big field. Maybe they can fit a lot of people there, but like either side is water. where people drown when they fall in. Like, I don't know that I want to be stuck in a crowd where I can't go to the sides. There's only one way out.
The crowd looks absolutely incredible. I heard that they legitimately have 250,000 people there, and it looks like it. Oh my God. Let's recap what we have seen in the first round, because we've been talking 49ers specific, as we should on this show. I apologize for the graphic being a little crowded, but I'm trying to fit everybody on one page. Cam Ward 1, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, Will Campbell, Mason Graham. That was the top 5. The Dolphins took Kenneth Grant. The Colts took Ty Warren. The Falcons took Jalen Walker, and the Cardinals took Walter Nolan. Those were all guys that were mentioned as possibilities for the Niners, as well as Cincinnati going Shamar Stewart at 17 and Gray Zabel at 18. Those were like all possible Niner picks, and they all went in a row. Bang, bang, bang.
Yeah, there are still some offensive tackles, though, that are sitting on the board that I would not mind in the second round.
I wouldn't mind. Depends which defensive linemen are there. The fact that Lynch was like, yeah, we're taking another defensive lineman, makes me think that maybe they're going to go defensive lineman back to back. I talked with Thor Nystrom of Fantasy Pros a little while ago, and I said to him, like, can the 49ers get 2 impact defensive linemen in this draft? And he said to me, yes, if they use their first 2 picks on defensive linemen. If you can come away, I mean, look, we're all being positive tonight, so let's just continue with that theme, right? Let's be positive. If you come away with 2 impact defensive linemen today and on your first pick tomorrow, and you get Nick Bosa, how much different does this defense look compared to when we came into the night tonight?
A lot. And it'll be kind of exciting because we won't know what we have, right? It makes the training camp, the preseason, much more exciting because, I mean, we have assumed every year, it has not quite panned out that way, especially this past year, but we have assumed every year that, the Niners have a top 3 defensive line, right?
Right.
For like 5 years now, ever since Nick Bosa arrived. So it's been a while since we go into a year going, I don't know what we have at the defensive line, but I'm kind of excited because they used their first 2 picks on the defensive line. Like, that's where we would be. And that would make preseason finally interesting, assuming that they play them. I for one, am not opposed whatsoever to using the second pick on a defensive lineman. I don't think they would go that way, but even if they go with like a speed edge rusher, because they plan on using Mykel Williams at both, and now they have the speed edge rusher, I wouldn't be exactly against that. It wouldn't be my preference, but like, I think there's still the possibility of them doing that, but certainly defensive tackle is going to be, it's that or offensive tackle, I think, with that second round pick. I don't think that they would go in any other direction.
I think with offensive linemen, I almost wonder if like the Dominic Pooney success last year is like reinforcing to them that like, yeah, we can find guys. It's not as big. We're not going to force it. We can find guys. A lot of people in the chat, Park Baby LA and Sam Mateo point out James Pierce Jr. is still potentially there. Now he's got some off-field stuff. There was some police traffic violations with him that were dicey. So, you've got to be satisfied there with everything is going to be okay. But he would be someone that I think a lot of people would be happy with if the Niners came away with him on the first pick, maybe at 43, if they could find a way to make that work. There's potential there again. And I get it. It's rookies and it's unknown. It's all that stuff. But if we got 2 really good defensive linemen coming out of this draft, you pair it with Nick Bosa, you start to feel a hell of a lot better. By the way, a lot of the defensive backs are still on the board. I mean, look at who's been taken, Levin. Jahdae Barron went 20 to Denver, and Will Johnson from Michigan is still there. That's a guy a lot of people had off to the 49ers at 11. There's a lot of defensive backs in this draft that are still on the board.
That is true. There's probably going to be a run on them, I would imagine, at the end of those first round. It is, I would say, a bit of a weird year. I mean, we've had, 2 running backs taken, only 1 quarterback taken so far. We have a wide receiver / corner taken. Like, it's a bit of a weird year for the positions.
Oh, by the way, I should have mentioned that. Yeah, sorry. I keep thinking of Travis Hunter as a wide receiver, but that's not fair because technically he's both. Adam Schefter tweeted out just now, Will Johnson Jr. has a knee issue that has concerned some NFL teams and helps explain why he has not been selected. He had a couple different injuries in college. He had a toe thing that I know he battled also. And the 49ers seem to have gone away from guys like that, Levin. They, for the most part, they value experienced guys with production. At least they did last year, and it served them well. So maybe that's why maybe they won't have any interest in him at all.
I mean, depending on what the knee thing is, like a knee as a corner is about as bad as it gets. I mean, ankle is probably worse, but that's it. Like corners from the waist down matter massively. 99% of being a good corner is waist down. Your hands matter for hand fighting and stuff like that and jamming and all that. But there have been plenty of really good corners who can't do any jamming on the line. And there's been plenty of good corners who that's all they can do. So it's if it's a serious knee thing, like something that's degenerative, for instance, yeah, I'm not taking anybody with something like that in the first round.
I still have nightmares of them trying to work it out with Jason, the Chargers corner. Why can't I remember his name? For years, remember he was a first round pick. He kept getting hurt. You always said his name wrong.
Yeah, I can see him, but I can. He was a Pro Bowler, and then he got hurt, and then he got hurt, and then he got hurt, and then he got hurt.
Right, the poor guy. I don't know. I can't remember his name, but I've had
Verrett.
Jason Verrett. There you go. Yeah, like that is definitely not something.
It's on in the chat. Nick Ellert hat tip.
There you go. Thank you, Nick Ellert. Looks like the Packers have taken Matthew Golden, a wide receiver, which a lot of people were extremely high on. Some people even had him above Ted McMillan in terms of the best wide receiver in the draft class. Green Bay, they have a lot of good receivers. I don't know if they have a great receiver.
No, they don't have a great receiver. I think that they have a couple that are effective, but they're number twos. They're not consistent. Reed is one of them. Christian Watson injuries destroyed him.
Yeah.
Christian Watson, when he got healthy his rookie year, he had a stretch there where you saw why he was drafted where he was drafted, but then he just kept getting injured. We do have a Mike Rumpf mention in our chat.
Mike Rumpf, the last cornerback the Niners have drafted in the first round. They have not taken and a lot of people watching are like, who the hell is Mike Rumpf? Yeah, exactly. That's the point. So the Niners have shied away from that. I don't love the idea of another NFC team getting a weapon, but I always freak out about any NFC team.
I will say Golden might win the suit choice of the night for me.
Ooh.
I actually don't really care about the clothes for some reason tonight. I keep mentioning it, but I don't know if you've seen his suit, but it's a black and gold suit. His bow tie matches, and it's like the gold is like a very shiny metallic gold, and the bow tie matches that.
Woo. 5'11", 191. He ran a 4.29 40-yard dash. That is freaking lightning, man. That's going to be a thing. We're going to have to put up with that. I know a lot of people liked Golden. There's a lot of wide receivers in this class, actually, that a lot of people like. But smart pick by Green Bay. I get it, especially with the Christian Watson injury, but also like, it's great to have a bunch of good guys, but sometimes you need a dog, right? You need a guy that's like, hey, he might be covered. Screw it. I'm throwing him the ball anyway. And Jordan Love will do that. Like, we've seen Jordan Love be willing to put the ball up for grabs and have a little faith in his receivers. I totally get the pick by Green Bay.
That's what I was going to get at. It also, you can eliminate all doubt on whether Jordan Love is really that guy. If you give him weapons, to date, he has a little bit of an excuse. Well, his wide receivers are hurt all the time, and he doesn't have a great one. You go draft yet another one early, and Jordan Love still has these terrible turnovers at the worst times possible when the chips are down in big moments.
Mm-hmm.
You got your answer, and you can go ahead and start planning for the future.
How do you think Aaron Rodgers feels right now? The Green Bay Packers take a wide receiver in the first round for the first time since 2002 when they took Javon Walker.
Eh,
Matthew,
I don't know that he can complain because I mean he had Donald Driver, Jordy Nelson, and Devontae Adams. So it's not like he was starved for talent.
the last time the Packers took a wide receiver in the first round was 2002. Matthew Golden, the receiver they just took in the first round tonight, was born a year after that in 2003. That
Think who that was in 2002. It's not coming to me, but that
John
would have
Walker.
been. Oh, right. Yeah. And he would have panned out, but injuries, one bad injury.
Yeah, didn't he have a couple of really good years?
Yeah, he had like a really big year, and then they traded him because they refused to pay him.
Mm-hmm.
And then he got injured. I think he went to the Raiders, if memory serves. And that first year with the Raiders on a big contract, he got an injury that he was never able to really come back from. I think he came back and played very briefly, but like he barely played any games after that injury.
So I don't know what happened, but I guess the 49ers press conference with Lynch and Shanahan is over. So I don't know if the stream went down and they just said, forget it, we're going out to eat, or what the deal is, but it appears that that's over. So apparently a very short presser for them tonight.
Yeah, I don't know who this misplaced potato is in the chat, but I'm about to fight him.
Stats, who's the old guy on the screen with you? WTF. That's just Levin. As it always is, 2,700 people watching tonight. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe to the channel. I promise you will like what you see if this is your first time joining us. We're live every single day. We do shows all throughout the year, off season, whatever. We are going to be here for you. Please give us a chance, and I promise you, we will earn your time. A couple other things I wanted to get to, Levin. I saw a tweet that made me very, very happy. They announced when the schedule is going to come out. And I'm trying to see, here it is. Dan Strip pointed it out to me. Wednesday, May 14th will be the schedule release. Anybody that has followed me for any amount of time knows I love the freaking schedule release. I think it is hugely important. It is a big factor in how a team does. Where's your bye? Where do you have to travel? When do you have to travel there? I love it. So that'll be Wednesday, May 14th. So less than a month from now.
You going to go to a game?
Maybe. I hadn't figured that out yet, but
I know you wanted to go to one last year and it didn't end up working out. So I didn't know if you were like, I'm definitely going again this year.
Right. I mean, I maybe will try. Maybe it depends if we get a couple sponsors. That could be a determining factor. The Packers fans in Green Bay are going absolutely wild right now after the Matthew Golden pick. Some of them have been waiting for that wide receiver for a long time, Levin.
Yeah. It is a weird franchise that it hasn't had like an unknown period at quarterback. Like there's not been a single season where they go in going, yeah, I don't know if we have the guy that we want. You know what I mean? Like even Jordan Love, like they knew that was going to be a guy that gets 2 years to see what he can do. Aaron Rodgers, they knew that was the guy when he took over. Wide receiver, they've had great wide receivers pretty much the entire time as well, along with great running backs. Like they have not had a problem at a skill position in quite some time. Wide receivers in recent years has finally been a problem ever since they got rid of Devontae Adams. You know, I mean, running backs, you go from Arman Green all the way up to the guy that's down in Minnesota, which I'm now drawing a blank on. Not Cook, but he replaced Cook. But he was in Green Bay for a long time.
Aaron Jones.
Thank you, Aaron Jones. Like they've had good running backs, they've had good wide receivers, and they've had a good quarterback. Like Pro Bowl caliber ones at all three positions for almost 30 years in a row now, until the last couple of years of wide receiver.
So we've had a couple of things happen. First, the Vikings took guard Donovan Jackson, arguably the best interior offensive lineman in the draft, in some people's opinion. But also, we have a trade. The New York Giants are back on the clock at 25. They traded with
Got to be Sanders.
The Rams. It's either Sanders or Dart. I think I saw something last night on social media that said that the son of the Giants GM tweeted out a thing like a Jackson Dart picture or something in support of Jackson Dart.
Oh, really?
They're showing, I don't know who they're trying. Oh, that's Dion. They're showing Dion on ESPN right now, so we'll see. That's an interesting move by the Giants. So I don't know what the Rams got yet, but that could potentially, the Rams love to get their picks now. All of a sudden, first they were F them picks. Now they just take a bunch of draft picks and they hit on every friggin' guy. So who knows what Les Snead and the Rams have cooked up.
Yeah, we're gonna find out what this is. I'll be very interested to see, like, is Sanders even going to be a first round pick? Like, I get it. I personally would have a hard time drafting him looking at my franchise quarterback. And yes, it's 100% because I know his dad's going to be outspoken about every little thing, and that's going to cause turmoil and hard to coach team, which that's just the reality. But if I'm a quarterback needy team, I'm absolutely trading up for him now because he does have tremendous talent.
And do you want Shador and Dion, more specifically Dion, in New York? I don't know. That's a whole other thing. It's not fair to Shador that he has to deal, or Shador. Why do I keep saying that? It's not fair to Shador that he has to deal with all that, but whatever.
If his dad had just stepped back, it wouldn't be the problem.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Brian Daboll is trying to save his job too, right? Like, hey, you already picked a quarterback. He stunk. And then you paid him, which you never should have paid him. That was ridiculous. So that didn't work. You don't usually get to pick a lot of quarterbacks, especially when you haven't had really any success. They made the playoffs his first year, I believe, in New York with Daniel Jones, and they've stunk since then. So, Brian Daboll, you better be pretty damn confident in this pick.
Daboll has inherited the title of guy who should have been fired a long time ago, or the longest time ago, from Balky, who is finally gone.
And it looks like the pick is Ole Miss quarterback Jackson Dart at 25. So another quarterback goes ahead of Shador Sanders.
Yeah, not only did the Giants pass on Sanders twice, but they traded up to pass on him.
Right, yeah, that's true. Insult to injury, right?
If you want a chip on your shoulder, Sanders is going to have it. I'm seeing the draft compensation. It is the 34th overall pick, the 99th overall pick, and a 2026 third-round pick. So not that great of compensation. Nothing to write home about, put it that way. It's not terrible compensation. I mean, you move down 9 spots, essentially, and you pick up a third this year and a third next year.
Interesting that the Rams must have thought like, we're fine with a bunch of guys.
Yeah.
So, okay. Good. I mean, they're playing the lottery. They're playing the quantity over quality game potentially. So we'll see. It's worked out for them in recent years. So I'm not going to criticize the Rams because they have been crushing the draft recently. So maybe it'll work out for them. Jackson Dart. A lot of people did not think this quarterback draft was the best quarterback draft, and you're trading up for one of the guys in that draft. It's a risk.
The last few, this is a great quarterback draft, have been complete duds. So
wait, did I get it wrong? Did they trade with Houston instead of the Rams? I may have screwed that up. I apologize.
I didn't get to see who they traded with.
Okay, people are saying
I guess the graphic did show the Texans.
All right, I apologize. That's my bad. Sorry, I'm trying to juggle like 50,000 things here. So the Rams are at 26. The Giants are at 25. It was Houston that traded out of round 1. I apologize. Sorry, everybody. That's my bad.
Looking at it, the Rams could go Sanders. Baltimore won't. Detroit won't. Washington won't. Buffalo won't. Kansas City won't. Philly won't. So I think it's the Rams, and after that, it would have to be a trade up.
Well, that's interesting. As Sam Mateo and others in the chat have said, did the Giants hear that the Rams wanted Dart? And then maybe they had to leapfrog them. Sean McVay would not hesitate to take a quarterback. Matthew Stafford, we didn't even know what was going to happen with Matthew Stafford. He ain't getting any younger. I love him. He's tough as iron, but he's always hurt. He plays through it a lot of the times, but the Rams need to plan for their future. Maybe the Giants said, screw it. We got to make this move because he's not getting to us, so we're going to trade up with Houston.
Yeah, I mean, it would make a lot of sense. And Dart does seem like the type that McVay would like. He's a prototypical quarterback, put it that way. Like, I don't think McVay he's kind of like Shanahan. He doesn't like the ad-libbing.
I think he's less maniacal about that, but I would agree. It seems like that would be the guy that he likes. Oh, wait a minute. Adam Schefter says the Falcons are moving back into the first round to the Rams spot at 26. So there you go.
And that can't, no way that Atlanta's going quarterback.
Well, maybe that's exactly what happened. Maybe the Rams wanted Jackson Dart.
Oh,
the Giants come up and steal him, and they're like, shoot, that's the guy we wanted. All right, we're out of here.
Fine by me. It's the exact opposite of what we thought. Instead of the Rams getting more draft compensation, it's the Rams lost their guy and were forced to trade back because there's nobody left.
Good. I would like to see things not work out for the Rams as much as possible, quite frankly. So in a draft that we didn't think we were going to get a lot of trades, we've got now some multiple trades here at the back end as things, there's a lot of considerations at the back end of the first round, right? You get that extra year on the contract, particularly if you're going for a quarterback, right? Having that 5th-year option is massive because it's cheap. And at the most expensive position, that's definitely something to consider.
Yeah, I would make the argument if you think a guy is worth taking at the top of the second round at quarterback, he's worth trading up to get that first-round pick so that you can get that 5th-year option. Now, granted, how many quarterbacks actually play out on the 5th-year option? Almost none, because if they're a franchise quarterback, they're getting their big deal.
Mm-hmm. Right. And really, after year 3, you get that's the first year you can be eligible for a new contract under the CBA. So if you're that guy, usually it doesn't get to the 5th-year option. But, if you want to, it's a leverage for a team when you have those contract negotiations. It's one more thing you have in your back pocket. So I get why they would like it. I haven't seen the compensation.
I didn't even think about that. New York Giants quarterbacks, Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, and Jackson Dart with Tommy DeVito. You got to imagine either Wilson or Winston will end up traded. Like, they're not going to be okay sitting around as a third string.
I don't know. I would not want Jackson Dart anywhere near Russell Wilson. He just seems so fake and phony to me. I don't know. I that would not be something that
his persona, his whatever you want to call it, but he is somebody that works hard, who does study. So I'm okay with that.
Sorry.
No, go for it.
Mike Garofolo says the Falcons trade 46, 242, and a first rounder in 2026 for the Rams picks at 26 and 101. Oh, the Rams got a first round pick out of this deal.
Wow.
Okay. Who the hell is Atlanta taking?
Yeah, that's like, who's worth that? Jeez.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a first, a second. That's got to be a 7th round pick for
42. Yep.
For the 26th and the 3rd. So a first and a 3rd for a 2nd, 7th, and future for. I guess that's not insane. Sounds worse until you see the 3rd round pick there. You know what I mean?
Getting that first rounder though.
Man, well, yeah, because the Falcons could crater. You know what I mean? They are a playoff caliber team, but they could absolutely end up only winning 6 games if things don't go well. Say Bijan Robinson has a problem. You know what I mean? Like, without him, that offense is not going to move the ball. They could be a 6-win team. It could break bad. They're not a dominant team. So that could end up being, the 10th pick.
It's too bad it was with the Rams too, because how badly do you think the Falcons would want to have included Kirk Cousins in any side of trade, right? I mean, the Rams is not going to work there, but if they could have gotten rid of Cousins. A lot of people in the chat are saying, what about Shedeur Sanders? Like, they just don't forget the Falcons took Michael Penix, I think top 10 last year. So as cool as that would be, because obviously that's where Deion started his football career and even played baseball in Atlanta as well too. That's not happening. In fact, I've seen rumors of who the pick is for the Falcons. It's not even an offensive player. So there you go.
I'm seeing Goodell announce it right now.
I will never miss an opportunity to play that damn chime. So anytime you say Goodell or pick or announce, I'm throwing it in.
Wow.
looks like the Atlanta Falcons are going defensive end James Pierce Jr. from Tennessee. A lot of guys, some today actually, Pierce was a popular Niner pick. Everyone was saying James Pierce is going to be the pick. James Pierce is going to be the pick. He's got a lot of good things, but he also had, I'm trying to look it up in the Dane Brugler draft guide. Let's see, arrested on traffic charges, speeding, driving on a suspended license, failure to present insurance after a stop in 2023. Now, all charges were later dismissed. In the interview process, one NFL scout said, I want to be convinced that he loves football. Not a guy I want my team to take in the first round after trading up and giving up a first-round pick.
Yeah, it's a big risk, put it that way. But he's also somebody that, if he didn't have those question marks, probably would have been a top 15 pick.
Yes, fair. I don't like risk in the first round. I like to minimize risk. It is risky. Now, hey, maybe it'll work out for Atlanta. Their defense had some major problems last year. They definitely, and especially rushing the passer. That was an extreme weakness for the Atlanta Falcons. They had to do something about it. This is a defensive line draft. So teams are going to want to fix that position. And like you said, on the field, he does a lot of good things, a lot of good things with speed too.
I'm listening to Rappaport talk right now on network. I heard him say that the Falcons came, as he put it, this close to taking Pierce at 15. And when he was still available here, they decided they had to go for him.
So they go defense twice in round one. They took Jalen Walker at 15, and now they go James Pierce. So like we talked about, they needed an infusion on that defense, and they're absolutely taking steps to rectify it. Mykel Williams has apparently started his media session since being taken by the 49ers.
Right.
And he says he's 100% healthy and recovered from the high ankle sprain that dogged him in 2024. He said he played at 60% at 2024. He acknowledges it wasn't a smart decision to play through it, but doing so earned Williams a ton of cred at Georgia and with the 49ers. He better be 100% healthy because we need you, boy. Thank you. Please, Mykel Williams. We need you, man. Let's go.
Yeah, it's I'll be really interested to see like what are the early returns during the rookie minicamp. You know what I mean? How does he show up? How does he do? Now, granted, you got to take everything said there with a huge grain of salt.
Mm-hmm.
But I would love to know, like, if you're not seeing a lot posted about him in the rookie minicamp, I would say that's a bad sign. That's about as far as you can take it.
Right.
But, you know, because if everybody's saying, oh, he's dominating, he's beating everybody, like, they exaggerate a lot with rookie minicamp. But if they're not saying anything, that means he's not looking good.
Mykel Williams perked up at the mention of getting to play the 9 technique regularly. Quote, I feel like because of how well I play on the edges, just being in the wide 9 the whole game all the time would allow me to make more plays, and it allows me to be a better player overall and have a better career. That's interesting that he is seemingly in line with what the 49ers want to do. Good. Let him do the thing that he's good at. Don't try to change him. It's like when you date somebody. You can't just assume, oh, I'm going to change him. I'll make them neat if they're messy, or I'll change them. No, most of the time people don't change. They're tricking you. Okay. So I like that Mykel Williams is just going to show up, play the wide 9, play on the edge, and do the thing.
Yeah. Like, you haven't been able to change me in what, 6 years now?
Right. And God knows I've tried. You're still the same jerk you've always been.
Yeah, but you love me, and that's why you keep bringing me back.
Well, and you're also willing to do 3 hours on a Thursday night, so that's
It's cakewalk.
But I hear what you're saying about the rookie minicamp with Mykel Williams too, and it's also the kind of thing where, look, this is 11 overall. Okay, this isn't 32, so I don't want to hear not good things or nothing about him in rookie minicamp and training camp and have people say, well, it takes time. No. It didn't take time with Nick Bosa. Like you mentioned earlier, it didn't take time with Fred Warner. When you got a guy, when you got a dog, right away. And that's hopefully what we get with Mykel Williams, where it's like, damn, this guy is doing his damn job every single play.
Yeah. I mean, Aldon Smith, you knew it from preseason. If I remember correctly, he had a couple sacks in preseason. You're like, whoa, that guy's different right away. Like you said, Fred Warner, I mean, week 2, he took over the headset. And I remember thinking, oh, wow, he's getting the headset. I'm drawing a blank for some reason on who was the linebacker he was with, but they were the more experienced, but they didn't handle it well. Oh, it was Reuben Foster. That's why.
God.
It was Reuben Foster. He did it, but they said it like affected it. It was too many things to think about for him.
Mm-hmm.
And it was causing him to be like delayed in the play. And so they gave it to Fred Warner. Like, you know, pretty early on whether or not somebody's going to be the real deal. Now, you might see flashes, and some people have to get put in a better situation to where, you know, a better scheme for them. Like, that's why the Niners have been able to find these diamonds in the rough, because they're taking guys from a scheme that didn't work for them and putting them in something that they're better able to succeed from. You know, the Minuhu is a great example of that. So, like, that's possible. But this guy, you know, if you think about it, it was one of the things when you showed that breakdown of the different what he had to line up as percentage, that I hadn't seen that, and that actually intrigued me, because if you think about it, like, okay, he had 5.5 sacks, and everybody says, oh, he's not that great of a pass rusher, right? Well, if he played like 30% of his snaps from the inside of the tackle.
Right.
If he played all of those on the edge, would the talk about him be completely different, because he would have had, you know, 8 sacks. You know, college is not one where you put up crazy sack numbers. But if he had 8 sacks, I'm guessing the narrative would be a little bit different.
Owl Jolson, I like that name, says, absolute joke of a first pick. We need and have needed an offensive tackle to protect the guy that's going to get paid a ransom. And Weasley Kyle and Fraud Lynch pick another Javon Hargrave type, an undersized defensive lineman. Undersized? I don't. Mykel Williams is 6'5". Like, that's undersized as a defensive lineman. He's 6'5", 267. So I don't know that he's undersized. I know Larry Krueger was not a fan of this pick. As many people have said, I don't think of a defensive end at 6'5". I mean, Alden Smith was 6'5" and 10 pounds lighter than that, and he was not undersized.
I forget which guide I was reading. It might have been PFF's big board, but they literally in his thing said, if you were to create a defensive end, you would pick his measurables. So no, he's not undersized. I did see here where Baltimore took the safety, Starks from Georgia.
Malachi Starks.
Yeah. So there's no chance of him falling into the second round for the 49ers.
By the way, in case you're wondering about Mykel Williams, 6'5", 260, 10 1/4 inch hands, 34 and 3/8 inch arms, and an 83-inch wingspan, basically. And he ran a 4.77 40-yard dash. That is a man that can move. For that size, that's an athlete, man.
Yeah. I think he's thinking of him as being like a defensive tackle.
Right. But even then, 6'5", he may be a little light for D tackle, but 6'5" is 6'5".
Yeah, but I mean, if you don't have the girth, then in defensive tackle, you'll get eaten up. But that's not what he is. He's a defensive end who maybe will play 10% of snaps at defensive tackle.
You just wanted to say the word girth. Let's be honest. Javi Vega, podcaster emeritus, former Gold Standard podcaster, says Mykel Williams greater than Abdul Carter. He was also supposed to join us on tonight's show, and then he says, I'm still at work, but you're watching the stream at work anyway. Come on, man. No, we appreciate how
dedicated
he is. And you know what? Hopefully you can join us tomorrow, Javi. We'll do a show tomorrow as well. So plenty more coming at you with the Gold Standard Podcast Network. Over 3,000 people watching right now. Thank you, everybody. Again, I keep saying it, but if you just popped in, it's your first time joining us, like and subscribe to the channel. Hell, like it anyway if it's not your first time, baby. I promise you, we offer the best, most objective 49ers coverage you will find anywhere. We do live shows every single day. We do interviews with guests. I had just had Dieter Kurtenbach on this week. I talked to Mike Florio the week before that. Todd McShay is going to join us as well once all this breaks down. Plenty more coming. Please like and subscribe to the channel.
This guy right here.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to sell people. So just shut up. King Joser says, Brock NFL season is up on Prize Picks now. I think they got a deal, bro. It wasn't until 2 hours ago. I saw a post that they were close 8 hours ago. I assume you're talking about the Brock Purdy contract. I did see something that said maybe they structure it similar to the Jared Goff contract he got a little while ago. Look, there's plenty of time.
His NFL season on Prize Picks, I think that's betting, and so he's saying something came up on a betting site.
Apparently,
meaning that they must know a deal is done.
Maybe
that's what I'm taking that as.
But that would be great news too. Please feel free to break that, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. And there's plenty of time to talk about Brock, and we will. But this is about the draft tonight. But thank you for putting that on the radar, because obviously that'll be something we'll be following very closely. Sam Mateo says, you guys have done a great job with the coverage. Thank you. You know, Sam Mateo has been here almost the entire 3 hours. So thank you, Sam Mateo, for hopping along. Another thing that David Lombardi points out, and I think this is interesting too, is the age of Mykel Williams. Unlike some of the guys the 49ers took last year, he's 20 years old, Mykel Williams. He's a pup, man. He is raw. I mean, you could be 3 years into his career when things really start to click for you and be 23 years old. That is a selling point. That is a fantastic.
Half your age, Rob.
Oh, dude. I did not need that. I did not need that right now.
I gotta say that for another 4 months, because I turned 40 in 4 months, but he's half your age right now.
I turned 40 in January. Dude, that is a killer right now. He could legitimately be my son. My God. Oh, man. All right. Well, that just made me feel super old. Just, I was having a good night. The Niners made a good pick. They didn't trade up. The board fell to them, and you ruined it. So thanks.
You're welcome.
I'm trying to
wish he was 21 now? Do you wish they had drafted somebody else that was older?
No. I'll put my own self-esteem and happiness below the team. Damn it. There's a lot of people online that are mad that the Ravens got Malachi Starks because they already had Kyle Hamilton. I feel like this happens for the Ravens every year. They just end up with really good players at the bottom of the first round.
Yeah, they showed what they have in terms of coverage. The NFL Network showed the stars that they have, and it's like, good Lord. Imagine having that as a secondary with Roquan Smith at linebacker, and you got Lamar Jackson as your quarterback.
And you know what people are going to say, though. Won't matter in the playoffs. They'll still lose in the playoffs.
Yeah. I heard that for 12 years about Peyton Manning, and then he won one.
Mm-hmm. And he went to 4. Aussie Niner says, Aussie here. Great show, guys. Appreciate it. We've checked in. People have checked in from Mexico, Greenland, Australia, New Zealand, Ireland. We are circling the globe here on the Gold Standard Network.
And Brazil.
And Brazil, yes, you're right. Garapa, says, are we in trouble this year or are we contenders?
Neither.
Yeah.
Neither.
I mean, if the Niners somehow won the Super Bowl this year, it would be like one of those New York Giants years where you're like, holy crap, they go on this magical run. It's not a year where they're going to be Super Bowl favorites coming into the season. And, I've said this over and over again, but I'll continue to say it. They are not the hunted this year. They are the hunter. They are the ones that are going to be going after the other teams. And that's okay. And you can still win a Super Bowl like that. It's just different from recent years.
I think absolute best case, Christian McCaffrey puts up an MVP caliber season. Brock Purdy puts up another MVP caliber season. Like, everything goes their way. Mykel Williams is a dominant rookie. Everything checks out. I think absolute high side is 12 wins. In the past, the last 5 years, the absolute high side of everything broke their way was undefeated. So
right, yeah.
It's a big difference. I think they have, I would put their odds at making the playoffs probably a little higher than 50-50, but pretty close to 50-50. Like, they're a playoff caliber team is the way I would put it. I don't know that they're a division winning caliber team. That's the big one that I wonder about. And they're definitely capable of having things not go their way and winning 6 games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hopefully it doesn't go that way, considering the schedule. People in the chat are talking about the Lions pick. I didn't see who it was. They're up now at 28, then Washington, Buffalo, Kansas City, and Philadelphia to close it out. So I didn't see who they picked.
I didn't
We'll have
see it
to
either.
keep an eye on that. Any other? Let me just check the comments really quick to see if there's any other Niners questions. Oh, Brisbee Life, I like this one. Says, I'd like to just not have a negative 20-day rest disparity again.
Yeah, good luck.
Here's the thing, Brisbee. I would have said, well, there's no way they do that to the 49ers again because they just did it to them a year ago. And then they did it to the 49ers again for the second straight year. It was even bigger, I believe, than the rest disparity they had in 2023. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe they can go 3 years in a row.
I do wonder how much of that is like a negotiating thing where like they say, hey, you guys have not gone to London yet or Germany. You haven't gone overseas. And the Niners say, we do not want that. And they say, okay, if you don't want that, then you're not going to be given preferential treatment when it comes to the schedule. And you might have a rest disparity because we're sending somebody else. You have the option. You can go to Europe, or you're going to have a schedule that's not very favorable to you in terms of rest.
Go to Europe, or we're going to make you feel like you were playing in Europe with the rest disparity.
But you know what I mean? Like, I would bet that there's a lot of like arguing and negotiating from owners and GMs behind the scenes with the NFL when it comes to the schedule.
Oh, there's a ton because teams have all sorts of requests. The Niners, for example, don't like to play at home early in the season in the afternoon because it's so hot at Levi's that they like to, if you're going to do that, they like to play the night games, Monday night, Sunday night, whatever, Thursday night, because of the weather situation. So that's something that, there's all these requests that go in from all these teams. Plus, like, our stadium's being used for a concert, so we can't be at home that week. It's a complicated formula. I think we are going to play in Mexico this year, though. I thought Mayoko said something about that. Tyleek Williams was the Lions pick, defensive tackle from Ohio State. People are saying it's a reach. I have no freaking idea if it's a reach, but that's who they took, in case you're wondering. And since I mentioned a draft pick. Yes.
Do you wonder like who made that? Like who made that chime that is so crazy popular?
I don't know, but it's the greatest sound in the world right now today. I love it, man. It just gives me the warm and fuzzies every time I hear it.
I get that with the fantasy, and it's used in CBS fantasy drafts, both baseball, football, both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's used. I don't know if Yahoo uses it, but ESPN obviously because it's an ESPN announcer. I cannot remember the name of them, but it's "You are on the clock." That, and it's the same one every time. And that one's like it's just iconic in my mind because it's been used for so many, but it's an ESPN announcer. I cannot remember. It was something that was like, it started like 20 plus years ago or so. It was somebody that was on ESPN when we were of that age where SportsCenter was the thing.
Good times. Chris Sims said, did not think Tyleek Williams would go this high. Bit of a future pick for the Lions, but it fits their value and their culture. They're saying you're not going to run on us. Yeah, well, we'll see. I think the Lions' problem is not going to be defensively. I think they had so many injuries defensively last year that they were dead. Like, they'll be better on defense this year. I think their offense is going to struggle without Ben Johnson. And you got Jared Goff back there. And I've seen Jared Goff without Ben Johnson. No thanks.
Yeah. I've seen Jared Goff with McVay, and it was a no thanks then.
Right.
With McVay. I do see the Commanders are making a selection. Goodell's headed to the stage. I saw an Adam Peters sighting.
Aha. By the way, not only was it a no thanks with Goff and McVay, it was we paid this guy and McVay hated his guts by the end and couldn't wait to get rid of him. They took on the biggest dead cap hit anyone's ever taken on to get rid of Jared Goff. That's how badly they wanted away from him.
Yeah, but part of that was also keeping Stafford away from Shanahan. Well, Washington, you stinks. They took somebody I was hoping to get in the second round. They took Josh Connerly, the offensive tackle from Oregon.
Another one of the Oregon guys. That's an Adam Peters pick, I feel like. He's like, hey, I finally get to take offensive linemen.
Yeah, if the Niners have a close relationship with the Oregon coach, Peters has a close relationship with the Oregon coach.
Dan Lanning. Yeah, you would think. Look, what's their team about? You found your quarterback, right?
Yep.
Get the quarterback, set up the quarterback for success. That's what Washington is doing. And that is exactly the assignment. You have Jaden Daniels. You know he can play. You got to the NFC Championship game last year. Help him. And that's a first step if he's good.
I'm very jealous now. In his highlight reel that they showed for Connerly, there was a Little League clip of him as a running back stiff-arming kids because he was big even then. And then a highlight from college where he was a tight end that went and caught a touchdown. And that's your offensive tackle.
Talk about freak athletes, man. 6'5", 311 pounds, ran a 5.05 40-yard dash, 8 foot 7 inch broad jump, 10 3/8 inch hands. The dude's a monster, man. He's a monster.
And it showed he allowed 2 sacks in 1,091 snaps in college.
Is that good?
Yeah, that's like
insane.
That's essentially 2.5, almost 3, or sorry, 1.5, almost 2 seasons worth of pass dropbacks in the NFL, and you only allowed 2 sacks.
Gameplan.exe says, you know what I love about the pick 31 this year? It belongs to Kansas City. That's well done. Buffalo's on the clock at 30, though, I believe. They still have 5 minutes left in their draft clock. Dirty Diaper says, please tell me you're doing a live show tomorrow on night 2. Yes, I am. That's the answer to that question. We will be live. I don't know that I'll do the whole night, although I might have to because 49ers may do some crazy stuff. So I'm not quite sure what we'll do in terms of how long we'll go, but we will be live for some of the day 2 picks as well. So make sure, again, like and subscribe, click that notification bell so you know every single time we're live. You don't want to miss anything. Are you going to be joining us tomorrow night, Levin?
I was wondering if you were going to ask that. I might pop in, but I'm joining tonight. I work tomorrow, so I have work that I'll be getting up for in about 5 hours from now. And so I will likely be exhausted by the time I get my kid down and the draft starts. Well, so if I pop in, it will not be for the entire time. I can guarantee you that.
Appreciate it nonetheless. Time for Broccolips says, count me in tomorrow. Thank you. Hopefully you are not alone. Tell a friend, tell everybody, pass it on. I'll have the studio up and running again for tomorrow's picks. 3 picks left in round 1. Buffalo, Kansas City, and Philadelphia. I feel like, I don't know, Howie's got something cooking. Maybe I'm just terrified of Howie Roseman at this point, but I feel
at this point, whatever Howie does, I'm going to believe it's right.
Right. They've earned
the best GM in football.
They have, quite frankly, they have earned it. And I don't like it. I feel like there are still a lot of good players left that could go to them. And I just want bad things to happen for the Eagles because they got the job done and they beat the team the 49ers couldn't beat.
Yeah. Haven't heard the 49ers talking too much stuff this offseason.
Right. Good. And they shouldn't. Like Kyle Shanahan talked about how this year is all about culture building and building it back up again. And you know, that entitlement mentality that this team had where we're the uncrowned champions and we're the best team, even though we didn't win. I think that's gone now. You can't have that after a 6-11 season, after you lost the Super Bowl again. I think that mentality is out of the building now with Debo gone, quite frankly. I think that's a good thing for the 49ers.
Absolutely. An uncrowned champ is nothing. Like
right.
That's not anything. Like it's, to me, that's something that I would be embarrassed to call myself, because it not only reeks of arrogance, but it's also saying, yeah, we haven't been a champ, but we're going to call ourselves champ anyways. It's just like a complete disconnect for me. I do not get calling yourself that. Hey, we've gotten really close. We deserved to win. No, that's being a poor loser is what it is.
for just to be fair, I don't know that they've ever called themselves the uncrowned champions. That's sort of the name that I have dubbed for them, but they have certainly acted like it enough.
No, it was, I think Debo, I don't know that he used that exact term, but he said we're the champions who haven't won yet, or something along those lines. And that's when you started saying that.
That's not good.
I can't remember exactly how he put it, but he did say, like, we are champions that just haven't won yet.
Switching gears just a quick second, because I just saw this. It came across Twitter. Giants coach Brian Daboll announced at his presser that Russell Wilson will be the Giants starter. So they traded up for Jackson Dart. Russ is going to be the starter.
No, that's not surprising at all. Unless it's a top 10 quarterback, you don't announce that the rookie's the starter. Now, if Dart comes in and looks like the real deal, guess what? A coach can lie.
Or just say, hey, wouldn't that be the irony of all ironies, right? What happened with Russell Wilson? He goes to Seattle. They have Matt Flynn. They just paid Matt Flynn a bucket of money to come to Seattle. Russell Wilson gets picked in the 3rd round. He goes there. He outplays Matt Flynn. Pete Carroll says, you're the starter. And it's like, holy crap. And they were off and running in Seattle. How ironic would it be now at the end of Russell Wilson's career when he got signed by the Giants to be the starter? All of a sudden, they draft a quarterback that comes in and pulls the tablecloth, so to speak, out from under Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, Russell Wilson can't think starting is guaranteed for him.
Mm-hmm.
It's Jameis Winston. That if I'm Jameis Winston right now, I'm saying, hey, look, I get it. You got a guy that you believe in. I don't want to be a 3rd-string quarterback. I want to be a backup to where I might have a chance of starting at some point.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's never boring in New York a lot of the time.
I will say Buffalo just took a cornerback, and it is not the one that's listed as the best available by pretty much every big board.
Buffalo took Maxwell Hairston out of Kentucky. So, yay. I mean, I would have thought you would want to get Josh Allen some weapons, but apparently not.
They've taken a tight end and a wide receiver in back-to-back drafts at the top. So
I still think they need to do more for that guy. He has to. I feel like he has to do it all.
They do, but at this point, you got to be honest with yourself and say, maybe we're not very good at evaluating that position.
It's entirely possible. What is up? The Chiefs now. Are the Chiefs on the clock? Wait a minute. Did Philly just trade up with the Chiefs?
Yeah, they did. I see that too. It's Philly and then Kansas City on the NFL Network ticker.
Why are you trading?
Philly must have gotten word that Kansas City was going to potentially trade out, and they have somebody they really like, and they didn't want to. It's going to be, what is it, Will Johnson? They're big.
Jeremy says the Chiefs wanted the 32nd pick, even though they didn't win the Super Bowl.
But you know what I mean? Like that's exactly their MO. Philly is very big on, like, at the end of the first, all right, we're going to take the guy that's fallen for maybe a valid reason, but we're going to take that roll of the dice. And most of the time it's worked out for them.
And it's a lot different, taking a pick at 31, taking a risk. You're willing to put up with different things at that spot for premier talent, and you could potentially get a really good talent. Could it be Mike Green, the pass rusher from Marshall, who had some sexual assault allegations?
They did lose, Josh Sweat this offseason. So
that would be, supposedly everything about Mike Green on the field was very good, very impressive. I think he led the country in sacks, if I'm not mistaken. I think he had 17 sacks last year for Marshall. So
do you think the trade is they swapped picks and Philly will let them borrow the Super Bowl trophy for 1 week?
Yes, that's the deal.
You can pretend you got the first ever three-peat for 1 week.
People are saying online that it's Jahad Campbell, the linebacker from Alabama, who I know a lot of Niners fans liked. I know he had some injuries. We'll see. I don't know.
I did see the draft compensation was just a 5th-round pick.
Because it was one spot. So, yeah. It's like, all right, I'll take an extra pick. That's the kind of thing where it's like, all right, tell me who you're taking. And once you find that, it's like, all right, then okay, give me the extra 5th round pick. But it's like a 6th round pick, right? Because they're so deep in the round. That's basically nothing.
The thing I don't understand in those scenarios, I guess, why trust the other person's going to actually take the person they say?
Right.
Say, okay, we will select that player, and then you trade for that player with the compensation that we asked for.
Well, but you know what it is? It's like if you do that, you could do that once, and then they'll never trust you again. You'll burn your bridge. That might, like you could do it. I had an old boss at ESPN that said this, and I always liked it when he said it. He said, "You can do anything once." I was like, "Damn, you know what? You're right." So if you thought it was worth it for that guy, maybe you do it and you say, "Screw the consequences." But I don't know. I don't think that Howie would do that. His reputation in the game is too good. I haven't seen the actual pick. Oh.
No, I haven't either. That's why I'm like,
look at the Eagles, all that holding up the Super Bowl trophy. Oh God, it'll forever hurt that this group of 49ers players did not get it done to win the Super Bowl, and the Eagles did, and against Patrick Mahomes and the same team.
Yeah, it's
Oh well.
It's gonna be one of those things like. I will always look back on the dismantling of the Jeff Garcia, Terrell Owens, 49ers.
The end of the Mariucci era.
Right. That was like, to me, when the franchise changed. That's, to me, because of the age I was in high school. That's when it went from childhood fandom to adult. That's when I started analyzing every last little thing. I started really deep diving into it. It wasn't just like, what I see on ESPN, it's also around the time that the internet blew up, and so you were able to get a lot more info. So there were a lot of coincidence there. But like that's an era that's always kind of painful to me. It's painful, but not in the way that this one will be. Yeah. Unless they like turn it around and somehow win a Super Bowl in the next year or two. Looking back at the 2017, to me, I go like the 2012 to the 2024, because that's when the Super Bowl happened. That 12-year stretch is like the most painful 12-year stretch of fandom that I've had. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot more that goes into it. Because there's other things that happen in my sports fandom where certain teams I gave up on for reasons I'm not going to get into. But like I don't have an NBA team anymore. I don't really have a Major League Baseball team anymore. And that happened in that same 12 years. So like, this last 12 years of sports fandom for me is like completely life altering in terms of where I ever thought I would be with sports.
I got a text from somebody just now. How the F do these teams keep allowing Howie Roseman to draft studs on defense? This is mind blowing. People don't like it. And I get it, man. And like they are building a defense in Philadelphia that is young and fast and hungry. And, they're loading up. And it's like, you may have doubts about Jalen Hurts, but their defense, the reason the Eagles won the Super Bowl last year is because go look at that game. Vic Fangio's defense kept putting the offense in good positions to score. Now, not to discredit the offense. They still scored. That's full credit to them. But they are building such a complementary team. They have a stout defense. They're going to run the ball with Saquon Barkley, and they're going to run the ball with Jalen Hurts. Anytime they need a yard, they're going to do the tush push, and they are just building the right way in Philadelphia.
Yeah, they've hit on a lot of draft picks, and while you can sit there and say, well, some of that's luck because everybody's guessing to a certain degree, the amount they've done it at this point, there's no denying it. And that's why I said Howie Roseman is the best GM in football. And I don't think there's even an argument for somebody else. Not only did they just win the Super Bowl, but he has years and years of winning the drafts, like having the best draft of any team. Like it's insane how well he is doing.
I haven't seen the Chiefs pick. Is the first round officially over?
Not on my screen.
Chat, has anybody seen it? Mahomes just tweeted a very happy face. Boy. Maybe that's offensive line.
Offensive line or wide receiver, maybe.
Yeah, it could be wide receiver. We don't need any more happiness for Patrick Mahomes. The man has 3 Super Bowls, okay? He's enjoyed enough. He has a very large, happy, healthy family. He's had enough joy in his life, all right? The San Francisco 49ers have not won a Super Bowl in 30 years. 30 years, okay? Let's get a little happiness in the Bay, please, and thank you.
Yeah. And when did I become a 49ers fan? Oh, that's right. 30 years ago.
Jordan Schultz says the Chiefs are staying at 32, expecting offensive line help for Patrick Mahomes. Makes sense. I saw a couple comments from Patrick Mahomes that he wanted to throw deep more, that he thought that basically he had gotten away from throwing deep because he was kind of like, all right, they're in this coverage that's designed to take away the deep throw, so I'll look somewhere else. And I think Mahomes' point was kind of like, sometimes that guy is still open anyway, or I'm good enough to throw it and make it work. And so, hey, if they want to throw it deep more, then he's going to need more time to throw. So offensive line makes sense.
Yeah, they still need a wide receiver to be able to throw deep too. It's not just the offensive line for why he hasn't been doing that.
Mm-hmm.
They got rid of Tyreek Hill and replaced him with nobodies. Like literally nobodies.
Yeah, certainly nobody. Rashid Rice was there, but he's hurt. He's coming back from a thing. I know they have Hollywood Brown. Hollywood Brown is what he is at this point. He can be a piece, but he's a role player for you. He's not a guy you can build your offense around.
All I know is that Eagles defense is insane. Nolan Smith is now joined by arguably the best linebacker in the draft.
Yeah, don't remind me, dude. Come on. I'm trying to be positive tonight. You're bringing me down.
Quit whining.
Look, other teams get good teams. The Niners have to figure it out. You're going to have to beat good teams to get to where you want to go, And how satisfying would it be to beat this Eagles team next year? Not saying the Niners could, but I'm saying it would be satisfied if it happened.
Absolutely. I just, at this point, my goal for the 49ers is make the playoffs and see what happens after.
Yes. The season begins anew once you get to the playoffs. It's a one-game scenario. Plenty of crazy stuff has happened. So we will ultimately see. Chris Sims just tweeted about the Eagles. The Eagles get a top 15 player. Unbelievable. They don't need Jihad Campbell now and can let the shoulder issues heal. I think he has a torn labrum. I think that's the issue. He'll be good at middle linebacker. Can he develop into an elite pass rusher? That'll be fun to follow. So that's probably why he fell a little bit. I'm assuming teams were just a little shaky with the shoulder injury for him. And Jordan Schultz, says the Chiefs are picking Ohio State offensive lineman Josh Simmons. Medicals were totally clean, and now Kansas City adds an elite protector at left tackle for Patrick Mahomes. Now, we'll see. That patella, again, that's an injury that we haven't quite gotten a hold on yet. It can be very damaging, but I'm sure the Chiefs feel comfortable with it, obviously, and they're protecting their quarterback.
I just saw Rappaport said that the Eagles liked Campbell so much that at pick 22, they started trying to trade up.
Wow. Well, you know what?
For almost 10 picks, they tried to trade up.
That makes me feel better about John Lynch trying to trade up for Mykel Williams, right? If Howie Roseman was doing that, then it makes me feel good that John Lynch is doing that. Or
true.
At least not feel bad.
I'm disappointed. Simmons was the one guy that's been still available that I thought, I would like that as a second-round pick. I'd be willing to trade up for that at the end of the first round, even.
Yeah.
Now I go into tomorrow with none of those ooh, that guy made it. I really want that guy.
Well, I'm glad you made that point though, because just because all those guys are gone and we all have, guys like that, doesn't mean the Niners didn't get a good player,
Well, yeah, that's certainly true.
We all have guys that we root for, and I get that, and I do it too. But there's more guys in this draft than I know about, anybody knows about. But the teams know about them, so we have a little faith that they ultimately can get it done. So the first round is in the books. Finally, 3 hours and 42 minutes in. You're seeing the picks there on the screen. All of them are in. The Niners make one pick. It's Mykel Williams. They stay at 11. They don't sacrifice any other draft capital. Who do you think had the best draft tonight? Just day one, Levin.
There's no obvious one this year because there's none that are they got 2 top 20 picks. So pretty obvious that it's them. In terms of like fit and what they needed, I do like the Jags. I don't like that they gave up what they gave up. I'm not a huge fan of that, but like if you're gonna figure out if Lawrence is the guy, getting Travis Hunter is the best thing you could have possibly done.
I'm going to go with Cleveland. You traded down to 5. You got a haul, including a first-round draft pick, and you still got Mason Graham. Now, you got a lot of needs. You're not going to solve all your problems, but you still got, arguably a guy that maybe some people had as the best defensive player in the draft or close to it, maybe number 2. He's on your defensive line. You compare him with Myles Garrett. Plus, you're building assets for life after Deshaun Watson. So I'm going to give it to Cleveland tonight. I thought they did an excellent job. I don't know if I like what the Raiders did with Ashton Jeanty at 6. That seems high to me, but maybe he is that transformative running back. But I'll give my thumbs up to the Browns, thumbs down to the Raiders.
Yeah, I will say that the Falcons definitely pushed their chips in and took a huge roll of the dice. Jalen Walker and James Pierce, like, if it works out, like, wow. It's just a lot of risk.
A huge risk for Atlanta. They gave up a first-round pick as well, I believe, for next year. So, but they needed help on defense, and they went and shot their shot, quite frankly. So we will see if it works out. Thank you, everybody. Again, there's 3,100 people watching. Thanks, everybody, so much. We appreciate you giving us any part of your evening tonight. It was an honor to be here for you. Thank you so much. Like and subscribe to the channel. You can follow the Gold Standard audio podcast everywhere you get your podcasts. Just search Gold Standard 49ers. It comes right up. If you decide to follow us, leave us a 5-star rating and a review. Tell us that you decided to follow us as a result of this show. Please and thank you. It helps people discover us. We will be live tomorrow night for the draft as well. So we hope you join us for that. Levin, you were here for all 3 hours tonight. I can't thank you enough. I could not have done this without you. Thank you.
This is no different than what I've done in the past. It's just actually recorded. I've had entire drafts before where I sat on the phone with friends and we're just talking about what's happening the entire time. This isn't any different.
Well, I appreciate it nonetheless, going above and beyond as you always do. Thank you, everybody. Again, have a good night, and we will talk to you tomorrow.